Jack Torrance moves his family into the Overlook Hotel for the winter so he can concentrate on his book. His son's special ability reveals a troubled history which soon begins to impose itself on Jack, leading to a delusional and murderous finale. Stanley Kubrick's multi-layered masterpiece was dismissed by critics, nominated for Razzies, and hated by Stephen King. But quick reappraisal established The Shining as a pop culture icon and one of the greatest horror movies ever made. My name is Luke, and with me today are the Grady twins themselves, Matt.
And when my wife tried to prevent me from doing my duty, I corrected her.
And Westy.
You got 15 rib roast, 30 10-pound bags of hamburger, you got 12 turkeys, about 40 chickens, 50 sirloin steaks, 2 dozen of pork roast, and 20 legs of lamb. You like lamb, Doc?
All the Right Movies credit is fine as we check into the Overlook Hotel to talk about The Shining. Hi everyone, you're listening to All the Right Movies, the best goddamn podcast on classic and hit films from Timbuktu to Portland, Maine. Or Portland, Oregon for that matter. We have a show for you today, stuff full of terrifying tales and even more terrifying conspiracy theories. We're talking about the incredible, the chilling, the one, the only, The Shining. Before we step into it, nothing can stop us talking about Patreon, and we're going to do it again. We're on there and we offer loads of exclusive podcasts, access to our podcast archive and other content not available anywhere else. So fans of this show, you're bound to love it. So go to www.patreon.com/alltherightmovies for more info and to sign up. What are you waiting for?
Well, exactly. There's loads of stuff there.
Bang for your bucks.
Also, this episode of All the Right Movies is sponsored by A Life on the Farm. Now, Life on the Farm is a documentary based on filmmaking farmers' insane home movies that can be best described as Monty Python meets the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And if you don't believe me, just watch the trailer. The guy is pretty nuts. In the words of the filmmakers, his films involve everything from a cat funeral, cow threesomes, to skeleton races, and a close-up look of a cow's placenta, so if that's your thing, take a look. The filmmakers are currently seeking some more finishing funds and have launched a Kickstarter where you can also watch the trailer. You can visit ALOTF Kickstarter.co.uk, that is ALOTF for A Life on the Farm, Kickstarter.co.uk to support the project and find out more. You can also find the link in the show notes as well. But for now, back to the show. Matt, why do you want to talk about The Shining?
I want to talk about The Shining because Westy is going to go out of his mind if we don't get around to it for him. He's going to absolutely lose his shit like shit's never been lost before. So we have to do it. For me personally, when I think back to when we did the Kubrick podcast, I said then, this film, it took me 3 attempts to watch it when I was a teenager. First 2 attempts, I was too freaked out. Had to turn it off like half an hour in. As soon as those twins start popping up, I'm out of there. Finally made it through, and even now when I watch it, it still like shatters my nerves like nothing else. I'm a big horror fan anyway, but the drawback to pretty much most horror films is they're always best on the first watch. Because when you go back to them, you know where the jump scares are coming, you know which bits you can relax in, which bits you can't relax in, you know how it's going to end. There's only a very, very few, a handful of films that stand up to this day after repeat viewings. And of those handful of films, The Shining's the top one for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, wonderful. What about you, Westy?
Well, I mean, obviously, you know, this film is like, it's as you know, I just don't shut up about it, and I haven't since I first saw it when I was about 15, 16. This film is my best friend, and always will be. Like,
that's weird.
But I know it is, but if I ever need, like, just something to just take us away, or something to just relate to, not necessarily the story or anything else, just the way it's shot, just the way it's constructed, just the technique behind it, just the balls behind it, just the grandeur of it, it's a film with so many questions, with very little answers. It's got so much of a higher sense of intelligence that you just need to explore it. It's just this vast maze in itself, which is, I think, what Kubrick wanted to do and wanted to deliver, and he did on every single level. It's literally one of the best films ever made, one of the best films I've ever seen, and like it rightfully states, it's a masterpiece of modern horror. Let's talk about it.
Let's do it.
Yep.
Well, I loved it as a kid, and as I've got older, that has turned into fascination and kind of what you were saying, Westy, near obsession about Kubrick's method and his approach. It's Nicholson at his zenith, an absolute genius from Kubrick. I love pretty much everything about it. The setting's incredible, the atmosphere, the music, the sound design, and the almost like unfathomable puzzle that Kubrick's weaved. It's a truly masterful film.
It is. It's the same age as us, and the difference is this is still interesting.
This still looks good. I will just clarify that we're going to be largely focusing on the international version of The Shining that runs just under 2 hours. Version that we're most familiar with being from England. However, we will make reference to the US version, which is about 24-25 minutes long, as we go. The Shining was produced by Stanley Kubrick, released on the 23rd of May 1980. Filmed largely at Elstree Studios in England, it was co-written by Kubrick and Diane Johnson, with Kubrick also on directing duties. It stars Jack Nicholson, Shelley Duvall, Danny Lloyd, and Scatman Crothers.
20 legs a lamb.
The beginning.
We're in straight from the off as the first shots of The Shining track a yellow car through the rugged natural beauty of the Oregon mountains. Matt, opening titles.
Yep, straight in there, foreboding right from the off. Just from that first frame, you're straight right on the edge already, aren't you? It's the music, it's the way that camera is moving. One thing I will say, though, is one of the many theories that gets thrown about with The Shining is that in the sequence, you can see Kubrick's face in the clouds.
Yeah.
You can't.
No.
You can't. Sorry to throw that one out the window through there, but no, you can't.
You can see anything in the clouds.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Whatever you want.
So this comes from that Room 237 documentary that goes through all the crackpot theories, but we'll go through them in a bit. But I was watching that and then came back to watching The Shining, and I got like a millimetre from the screen. And I couldn't find it. I could not find it for love nor money. So I may be there, but I just couldn't see it.
Yeah, I don't think.
I mean,
it's there
I doubt
at all.
it's there.
No, I really can't see it being there at all. But you don't even need to have Kubrick's face in there because this sequence is good enough. I mean, you know the theory about the brown note in music?
Yeah.
You know, well, if you don't know what it is, it's that there's a certain frequency, like below the range of human hearing, and if someone plays it or finds it, people will automatically shit themselves.
Pink Floyd tried to do it at a gig, didn't they?
Yeah, Pink Floyd tried to. So for me, this opening sequence, it's like twanging the brown note already, because I'm just so on edge right from the start, and I don't know why. Something about this just really freaked me out. And I love just how that car just looks so small against that landscape.
Yeah.
It's so isolated, and don't know if you noticed, but it's the only car going forward as well. All the other cars you see, they're either pulled over to the side of the road or they're going the other way. So
Lovely.
Jack's car is the only car that's heading towards the Overlook. And it just sets up this foreboding atmosphere really, really brilliantly. I love it.
Very nice. Westy?
It's the music that gets me, and it always will, every single time. That I know that Kubrick wasn't even around for these shots. These were done by the producer Jan Harlan and the second unit director Douglas Milson, who... Douglas Milson's amazing anyway, but he turned into DP on Full Metal Jacket once John Alcott moved to America. Right. So it's all a big family unit and everybody kind of trusts everybody else. So they went up and did these helicopter shots, and I just absolutely love them. I love the way there's just reflection straight away, which is a theme all the way through the film. There's a duality. Mm-hmm. You know, that they said that they had to wait 3 or 4 days for the wind to be absolutely perfect, because if the wind was any higher, it would have just shook the camera. They needed it to be silky smooth. It gets me every single time, just the absolute precision of this. Yeah. How you are just... it's like you've been strapped in and you're just being taken somewhere, and you don't necessarily want to go there, but it's taking you there anyway. And Stanley Kubrick spent 4 months debating the colour of these titles. For like 4 months to get
yellow,
that blue.
You should have been in there.
And I was like, mate, just make it yellow, but he couldn't because the beetle was yellow, so I let him off. It's still there in some way. He knows what he's doing. And there's some of this is featured in the original cut of Blade Runner. So Ridley Scott got in touch with Kubrick and said, I know you would have shot the shit out of that. Can you send us a bit of footage over so I can use it at the end of Blade Runner for a happy ending? Do you know how much he sent over?
How much?
17 hours. There you go, Ridley.
Lunatic.
It's that opening pull as soon as we start with that like kind of dreaded synth notes. They're absolutely amazing. Dun, dun, that's fantastic. And that overhead of the car snaking through the trees. And the music throughout the film is some of the best I've ever heard. So impressive.
Oh, it's amazing.
It's incredible. It was scored by somebody called Wendy Carlos and Rachel Elkind. They scored the entire picture, but Kubrick only used a few cues in a few scenes.
Yeah.
With the majority of its excerpts from Polish composer Krzysztof Penderecki.
Yeah. Right, okay, yeah.
But the sound is absolutely incredible, and it's the noises in this scene. The kind of like weird skittish howls and screeches, and it perfectly reflects that doom that you feel throughout.
Yeah, it's all the way through. This film is not about what happens. You know what's going to happen. You're told immediately. It's how it's going to happen and when it's going to happen. But this is the only film, the only Kubrick film that hasn't got directed by Stanley Kubrick as the final title.
Really?
But then he runs the front titles backwards. So the whole thing is meant to be a loop. It's all circular. It's all circular.
Right. Nice.
Love it. What I find amazing is that it was Second Unit who shot this. Kubrick didn't like to fly and lived in England, so he didn't want to. Fancy coming over to Oregon to take some wonderful shots? Nah, fuck that. You do it.
Exactly. Didn't care.
But I don't understand, considering he's such a hands-on auteur with his fingerprints through all aspects of the filmmaking, that he was just allowed this Second Unit to go and shoot this. It's fantastic.
He was really close with like Dougie Milsom. If you watch, there's an amazing documentary I watched the other day called Staircases to Nowhere,
right?
And he's interviewed on that, and what a sweet man, what a lovely, lovely man. But you can tell Kubrick just trusted him.
Yeah.
The amount of direction that Kubrick would give you to go and shoot something, you know exactly what he wants.
The exterior of the Overlook Hotel is the Timberline Lodge in Oregon. That was used just for the exterior shots, and then the majority of the rest of it was shot at Elstree Studios. Legend goes that Kubrick sent over a 3-man team on a fact-find mission to Colorado, where they spent 3 entire months researching the whole history of the entire state. Yeah. And came back with all of the information. What's he going to do with that?
He's
massive holiday.
The great thing about them exteriors, you know, there's the kind of plush virgin snow exterior, there's the summer exteriors where you just see the hotel. It's just a static shot. It's just locked off. That was Doug Milsom and the producer Jan Harlan. They went to the hotel and they stayed there, and they had an Reflex camera. They had 4 magazines of film, and they had to get up early before anyone else did, and they walked around the back way so they didn't get any footprints in the snow. And they said they waited long enough to get an exposure at f2, and then they just shot that scene. And if you look, there's 2 lights on in the windows of the hotel. That's where they stayed. They were their rooms. They left the lights on intentionally. Wow. So every time you see an exterior after a title card, that's just them 2 guys.
Lovely.
Two guys. Amazing.
Fantastic. What a fact. I love it. We're now looking at the scene directly after the titles as we meet Jack Torrance, who has an interview as a caretaker for the Overlook Hotel. Westy, the interview.
Great. Wonderful. Once you introduce that hotel and there's that tracking shot that comes round, it swoops lovely, he talks to the receptionist, and then he's in, and then you've got Ullman, who's great. He's red,
great hair.
Blue. Yeah, great hair. He's like very presidential. He looks a bit like JFK.
Yeah,
like this is all intentional. He's in red, white and blue. He's supposed to represent America in this kind of like ideal. His performance is fantastic. And I love the back and forth between him and Jack. I love the way it crossfades and goes back, and you introduce to Wendy and Danny, and then it crossfades
that's
back
amazing.
again.
That's an exposition scene, but it just tells you loads about the family dynamic. Tells you that we're going to live in this hotel for the winter. We get to meet Tony as well, and we establish that bond between Danny and Wendy that's really strong. And that's all within, for us, in the UK version, a minute.
Yeah, a few minutes.
Fantastic.
And that whole scene where Danny's talking with his finger, like Danny Lloyd came up with that in the audition. Like that was his idea. And it seems so genuine. You're just like, well, that's how he's going to address what he's doing. He's, you know, the anxiety's already there. Wendy's quite anxious, just sitting and just smoking, overeating.
Permanently smoking.
Yeah.
And just that back and forth, and then you have that amazing story about Grady. But the thing that gets me in this version, in our version, Bill Watson, what a fucking creep.
Says fuck all.
He says fucking nothing.
Horrible, man.
He just sits there and just like looks at Ullman, looks at Jack, and then doesn't do anything. And like even in the scenes after that, said before I turn you over to Bill, to do what? Like he just walks behind them. He's creepy as shit.
The only word he says is fine. When he asks it.
And I find that a bit creepy because of the cut, but that's all right. I think Nicholson, once you see him here and he gets that Grady story, I think that's just so brilliantly done when it's like, just a horror film addict, and that real
lovely.
slow crossfade is so amazing.
Yeah, I love it because of how it deals out this exposition. No messing, doesn't take any longer than it needs to. Compact it all into this little story coming from Ullman. And I just love watching Nicholson during this, because you just get the sense that, he's been really polite and he wants to like Ullman, but even now I just get the sense he just wants to be left alone. You can feel he's kind of like itchy in his chair, like, yeah, let's get the interview done. Let's get you all out the hotel so I can just come here. And you can tell he doesn't even care about this history that's been given him, which would freak most people out.
He's cool with it.
Yeah, he's just kind of beside us. Okay.
But he's like, and I can see why you people in Denver waiting for you to tell me. It's like, fuck off. Brilliant.
Yeah, it's that faux politeness, isn't it? He's I don't care. I just want to come here by myself and just write. Can we please just end this interview? So I love how it's just got that little bit of impatience to it. It's for just like a simple dialogue scene. I mean, Westy's gone through it brilliantly there.
Yeah, I really like Ullman in this, the way that he's kind of like half embarrassed when he's talking about Grady chopping up with your wife and kids, and he's kind of like nervous laughing. Great performance.
Yeah, it's a bit, but he's like, it almost feels like it didn't happen here. But it did. All right. It gets really light-hearted about it. Yeah. And he goes into the details, like chop them up into little pieces and 2 barrels of a shotgun in his mouth.
No need for that much detail.
Then Nicholson's like, well, rest assured that's not going to happen with me. But you know it is. You know it is. As an audience, you're like, well, that's what's going to happen. That he's just described the film without the
those
shotgun,
aren't the
basically.
reveals, are they?
Yeah, amazing.
There are a number of crackpot theories that we've talked about already.
Yeah.
I'm going to give you a summary of a few of them that are outlined in the Room 237 documentary. And
are you going to call them all crackpot?
Well, we'll see.
Yes, then.
No time for any of them.
So in this scene, specifically, you mentioned there Bill Watson. What's his purpose? He says no words and just looks weird. Jack the whole time. And then you've got what people refer to as the false window, the window behind Ullman. Looking at the structure of the hotel and the hallways outside the office, it's surrounded by interior hallways and apartment doorway as well. And Jan Harlan, the exec producer, said the set was very deliberately built to be offbeat and off the track. So the huge ballroom would never actually fit in. The audience is deliberately made to not know where they're going. People say The Shining doesn't make sense. It's not supposed to.
Exactly.
So a lot of people have talked about the false window and what does this mean? What are the interpretations of that? And that is right in the structure and the architecture of the building. It doesn't fit. There's an undeniable undercurrent of reference to Native American genocide throughout the picture.
Yeah.
The hotel's built on an Indian burial ground that we're told. There are Native American artifacts and artwork all over the hotel. The Calumet baking soda in the storage units, and they were strategically placed by Kubrick so that only certain parts of the label were shown and a different part of the label on each can. So meticulous. Must have meant something. Obviously, the blood from the elevator scene is the blood of the Native Americans, and Wendy even has a nice little yellow coat on with Native American symbolism as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Also, there's a strong Holocaust subtext as well. There's German-made typewriter, the Stovington Eagle designed T-shirt that Jack has on. The number 42 pops up on Danny's shirt, and Wendy takes 42 swings of the baseball bat at Jack.
Wow.
Yeah. So 1942 was the year that a number of Jews were taken to concentration camps amid the Holocaust atrocities.
Yeah. Apparently there's 42 cars in the Overlook parking lot.
Fantastic.
That ties in there as well.
Yeah.
And in the extended cut, Wendy and Danny are watching film on TV, and it's called The Summer of 42.
Lovely.
And if you look at the mirror theory, which in my opinion is probably the most believable, is that every time there's a reflection of something, you see a duality, which is what this film's about. It's about learning who you are, really, your true reflection of yourself. That's why I buy into it so much, because I think that's what it's about.
I'm on board with the genocide thing. I'm on board.
I get that. I get that.
Can have a number of subtexts. You might be talking about the duality of man, good versus evil and all that in the film, but there's also a few
100%.
others in there as well. That I do buy this genocide, the Native Americans.
I buy that. Like, Ullman's got an erection when he shakes Jack's hand. What?
Yeah, that's one of the most ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's a paper tray. come on, Kubrick didn't sit there and go, let's get that shot right just so it looks like he's got an erection when he shakes Jack's hand, because that makes no sense.
Yeah, it doesn't bring anything, does it?
And he is intelligent, but he's more intelligent than that. Like, he's not a fucking idiot. Yeah. It's not American Pie, but like, that's the whole point. Like, the stuff that you get from it is intentional, but I think we make it like such a serious thing, where to Kubrick, that's nothing. That's easy. It's the genocide of the Native Americans. Yeah, that's easy.
Trifolder penis? Definitely not.
Nope, definitely not. She swings a baseball bat. He has a tomahawk axe. Yeah, fine. America again. Yeah, I get it. Duality. Yeah, she turns into a squaw all the way through the film. She walks through the maze in red, white, and blue, wearing cowboy boots, and then she turns into a squaw at the end, defending him, who is then in red, white, and blue, attacking her. So yeah, I get it. Like, it is there, but to him, that's simple. That's toast. It's easy. It's cereal. It's not a problem. To us, fuck me. How do you even think of that? To him, he's just like, this is chess. It's easy.
Yeah. So Damien Lennox, one of our patrons, asked what our thoughts are on this, and that's the benefit of supporting us on Patreon. You can ask us questions. Damien, I hope we've answered your question there.
Yep. Did you ask it?
We didn't. You just took over.
Sorry. Right. I'll rein it in.
Knew this was going to happen.
God.
So some unusual goings on already at the Overlook. It's going to get weirder though.
Yep.
Good.
The director.
We're now going to focus our attention on the one and only directing maestro that is Stanley Kubrick. So, Westy, what do you think of Kubrick's work on The Shining?
Well, I mean, there's nothing else to say apart from absolute silence, is there? Really?
Hushed response.
A hushed, soft tone. Like, I don't know if I'm worthy. I don't know if I'm worthy to talk about how good it is. Like, I'm not. Like, as a director,
he's going to church on this one.
And to create this film that we're still talking about now, we're still incredibly interested in. This is a trip inside of Stanley Kubrick's mind. This is a trip inside of Stanley Kubrick's technique. This is a glimpse of what he's capable of as a human being, and it's fucking amazing. It is. The set design, it's all on sound stages in England.
You wouldn't think for 1 second, would you?
No, you wouldn't. The performances, he goes takes and takes and takes famously because he's looking for something that no one else is looking for.
No.
Garrett Brown turned up with a Steadicam and he told him how to use his own invention and made it better. Like, this guy was an absolute revelation to this medium that we love called cinema, and if it wasn't for this man, it would just be a lot more boring and it wouldn't be as engaging or as interesting or anything else. So his work on this is absolutely monumental. It's fucking brilliant. What a guy.
Wonderful. Now, Matt, I'm sure you can be as passionate and as eloquent as Westy, but can you be as tender with your vocals as Westy?
It's just in case he's listening.
As delicate as Westy.
I thought I was a bit brash earlier on. I thought I'd like calm it down.
No, his work here is absolutely masterful. Like, there's never been a film before, and there's never been a film since where the appearance of title cards scare me.
Yeah.
Like they do here.
Like when that Tuesday comes in, it slams in with a bang.
Yeah.
And it just says Tuesday. Like Monday, I understand. Everyone's scared of Monday. Yeah. But like Tuesday, a month later, bam.
Yeah,
fantastic.
It's just unreal how he thought of little elements like that. And we've talked there about, all these conspiracy theories. They're in there because Kubrick has built a film capable of withstanding that kind of analysis. And I can't even get my head around how he built this film from the ground up, how he thought of it on an intellectual level, what it was going to be about, what it could be about, and he's going to let people make up their own minds about that. How he thought of it on a physical level. I just think, who else would think about the hotel in the way that he did and think, right, I'm going to do this here, so that doesn't make sense, but I'm not going to, flag it up. If people realise it, great. If they don't, if they miss it, that's absolutely fine as well. And what he's done, he's made a film where you get out of The Shining whatever it is you bring to it.
Yeah,
if you just want to watch a horror film and get the crap scared out of you, it's going to absolutely deliver that, because he's designed this film to do that. But if you're like us and you want to talk about it and you want to investigate it and you want to find out what it means, what it doesn't mean, which bits hold up to analysis, which bits don't, he's put that all in there for you to discover as well. It's just it's on another level.
It is.
The detail and the thought process behind this, the stuff he's put in there would only ever come from Kubrick.
Exactly.
Yeah, I totally agree.
And he's having so much fun doing it at the same time.
He's having a wonderful time.
He's enjoying the craft and he's using it to its absolute advantage. Every single bit of this is just so watchable.
And it seems to come as second nature from Kubrick. I love those timestamps, like you mentioned. It goes from months to days to hours as the walls are closing in and things are getting more claustrophobic.
Yeah.
Fantastic. And I think he's just messing with us from the get-go. We're on the edge of our seat and disorientated by loads of things. The production design, which changes around all the time. When Jack's typing away, there's furniture behind him, then there isn't.
Yeah.
The iconic hexagonal carpet upstairs where Danny's playing with his cars. That carpet changes direction when the ball comes rolling in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Keep an eye out for it. The hexagon's facing Danny as the ball rolls in, and then when he stands up, it's pointing outwards.
Yeah.
That's just disorientating. Who would put that level of detail in?
Yeah.
And people are still saying, well, what does that mean?
Yeah.
It's there for a reason. What does it mean?
Yeah. It's a chess game. This whole film is Stanley Kubrick playing chess with the audience, and he's about 5 moves ahead of you every single time. It's such a joy to do, and you don't mind losing at the end. You just question how
because everybody loses.
Yeah. And it's first horror film as well.
Yeah.
Just knocked it out of the park first time. Yeah, no bother, lads, done it.
Yeah, done. See you later. I think, although it is a really beloved film, I think that because it is classed as a horror film, it doesn't necessarily get as much credit as it should. I know that sounds crazy because it's like massive film and everybody loves it, but the level of technical prowess and the number of layers to the film that we talked about just makes it one of the most incredible achievements in film history. It's not talked about if people talk about Citizen Kane or whatever, in the annals of the greatest films ever, but really the technical achievement, it really is.
Oh, it's monumental.
100%.
Fantastic.
So out of all the genius moves that Kubrick pulls in this film, have you got a favourite?
Mine is the way every single shot is like science. It's just...
Yeah.
It defies what art is, what creativity is. Everything's central to the frame. There's such a symmetry to this film. There's such a precision to this that you know that he's got control of absolutely every element of it.
Thinking about this, the bit that always stands out to me, because it's one of the most iconic moments, is that elevator of blood sequence.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, the way it looks, the way it just splashes around the side of the wall, the way it sprays up. Just managing the physics of that, that just trying to think of it just makes me cry.
Well, don't stop talking about it.
Oh, honestly, it does, how he did it, getting the speed right, so moves the furniture out the way, and then slowing it down, because it could be so ridiculously over the top and ludicrous, but it's not. It just puts you on edge straight away. And in the film, this bit, the backlot at a place called Ballroom Wood, and they used so much fake blood that obviously they had to wash off later on. The nearby village of Ballroom Wood, its gutters and its drains were running red with this fake blood the days afterwards.
Was that 900 gallons or something, wasn't it?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, can you imagine living there when that happened?
Yeah,
the river runs red in Ballroom Wood.
So how many takes that was?
3.
No, how many?
3.
3
takes, right?
Yeah.
So 900 gallons of blood. And it took, how long? It was about 9 days to reset and do it again.
Wow.
So they did 3 takes of it. And overall, because it took 9 days to set up again and Kubrick had to be available and Dougie Milsom had to shoot it and had to crank the camera up, this shot took a year to do.
Yeah.
A full year.
The planning of it.
Fucking hell.
Unreal.
So it's not just you show up on set for a couple of months, shoot, and then the film's finished.
Yeah.
It's pre-production, it's all of this. I mean, the whole thing must have taken Kubrick about 3 years to do.
Must have done.
Amazing.
Yeah, incredible. The original trailer for The Shining, it's just that shot of the blood spilling out of the elevator.
So it should be.
But the MPA didn't want blood to be shown, so threatened to remove it. And Kubrick said, that's not blood, that's rusty water. So they went, all right, okay, fine.
It was called Kensington Gore, which is what they got.
Yeah,
which
yeah,
is
it was,
a certain type of blood. But there is rumours that it was taken from an abattoir and it was actually cow's blood, real blood in the final take.
I was going to say, it looks like the most realistic blood I've ever seen.
Yeah?
Yeah. I don't know. 3 times that much?
No, for the last take. Because
Oh,
he said
just for the last
it
take?
didn't look
All
like
right.
blood. So the Kensington Gore was replaced and they put real blood in. So what you actually see is real blood.
Well, years before, actually, when filming stopped, he gave the twin girls, as a memento of production, he gave them 2 vials of it.
Oh, that's nice of him.
age. Yeah, exactly. That age. 2 vials of fake blood. Thanks, Stanley. Love that.
We've been on set for 13 months.
Yeah,
There you go. I've got a lovely little present for you, a vial of blood.
Can I have
Cheers.
Can I have a Steadicam?
Or a trike, a big
big
wheel,
wheel,
anything.
Or a rug? give them a rug each.
Really tie the room together.
Tie the hotel together.
I think there are loads that we could talk about, and we have talked about and will talk about, but what I'm mesmerised by is that this film's just confounded everybody and every one of its viewers for 40 years.
Yeah.
There are documentaries on it, whole films discussing every tiny little detail, and it probably means nothing, or the majority of it might not mean anything at all. I think Kubrick was just having a massive laugh, laughing into his grave come 99. Billy Friedkin said Kubrick's films don't reveal all of their mysteries at once. No. And I doubt this film will ever reveal all of its mysteries to anybody. People will be talking about it for decades and decades longer, I think.
Well, of course they will.
Definitely.
Yeah, of course they will.
Kubrick had this mantra at the time. He would say it's a quote from H.P. Lovecraft, and it is, "In all things that are mysterious, never explain."
Amazing.
Absolutely.
Fantastic. John Baxter, Kubrick's biographer, said that Kubrick felt he was being outpaced in certain areas of film and that other people were doing things better than him, so he wanted to come in and do something great that would blow everybody out of the water. So a film that exemplified this as him being outpaced was The Exorcist, Billy Friedkin film.
Right, okay.
And he was actually given the opportunity to direct that film by
Yeah,
Warner's.
that's right. Yeah.
And he also was given the opportunity to direct the second one as well, The Exorcist 2, which,
Really?
I mean, he should have. I mean, he definitely
Yes.
shouldn't have. The source material's not
No.
good enough for Kubrick, but it's a shocker of a film.
It would have taken him
It
10
is, like-
years to just, iron out the fucking crap.
He couldn't make his passion project Napoleon after the kind of relative failure of Barry Lyndon, so he had to find a project that would make him money. He'd grown an interest in ghostly gothic horror stories, and he told a friend that he wanted to make the world's scariest movie involving a series of episodes that would play upon the nightmare fears of the audience.
Yeah.
He'd read The Shining, loved it, and called it one of the most ingenious and exciting stories of the genre that he'd ever read.
Yeah.
High praise.
High praise.
Talked about multiple takes. He took this to new heights with The Shining. He had outlined a 4-month shoot, but it ended up being around 13 or 14 months. I mean, that's a bummer, isn't it?
Yes. It's long. But it seemed like fun.
This had a knock-on effect of other films due for production at Elstree, so Raiders of the Lost Ark, Warren Beatty's Reds, and The Empire Strikes Back were all delayed because Kubrick was pissing about with a steady camera.
Well, there is that, but there was a fire that delayed them for 6 months, which will obviously get into.
there is that
so,
fire.
It's not necessarily his fault.
Well,
I know he was laughing about it.
yeah, he was
There's that photo where
laughing,
he's laughing on set.
pissing himself.
Yeah, he
laughing.
loves it, yeah.
That photo was fantastic.
Yeah, it is. Brilliant.
On those multiple takes, Kubrick felt there was like a cycle of stages an actor goes through when doing multiple takes. So, for example, Nicholson would bring his A game on take 1, but then the next 10 might be more pedestrian. So Kubrick discounted these to get to takes 20s, 30s, 40s and beyond, where there was a lot more kind of over-the-top, outrageous stuff going on.
Yeah.
And he liked the idea of mixing first takes with take 120 or whatever.
Yeah.
To form what you've been talking about, Westy, that duality,
Yeah.
and to give a sense of unease or imbalance to proceedings. So, an example of this, when Jack has his nightmare about chopping up Wendy and Danny,
Yeah.
he's on the floor and he starts to drool. That was done in 2 takes.
Right.
That elevator, that was done in 3 takes. And then we'll get on, as we go on, to the instances of multiple takes and multiples and multiples of takes as well.
Again, really interestingly, this was one of the first films that actually used kind of a live feed, so you could see what was happening as it was getting shot. So Kubrick had like a 9-inch monitor, and he was watching on that. But he was talking to people about technical elements, about the dollies and redesigning wheels. He was telling Nicholson to just go for another take. And there's a wonderful story on that documentary that I was talking about from the production designer who said that Nicholson came up to Kubrick and said, "What did you think of the last one?" He said, "Yeah, it was all right. Do you want to do another one?" He said, "Did you notice the nuance that I put in the last one?" He said, "What was that?" He said, I shut one of my eyes because I feel it's more menacing if I've got one of my eyes shut." And Kubrick just went, "Well, yeah, okay, but do it again, but keep both of your eyes open." So Nicholson was like, "Yeah, okay." So it did it again, And then Kubrick was like, that's it, that's the take. And then Nicholson said later, I didn't have one of my eyes shut. He wasn't even looking, so I was doing He said, I just wanted to get it over with. So I just brought his attention back to what I was doing. As soon as he saw what I was doing, that's it, cut, print, lovely.
Clever, Jack.
Yeah.
You mentioned as well, Westy, that he was an avid chess fan. Mm-hmm. Kubrick would get round many tricky situations with George C. Scott on Dr. Strangelove by beating him at chess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Tony Burton, who's in the US cut of this film, but it's cut out of the UK cut, arrived on set with a chess set. He wanted to play in between takes. I mean, he's in it for a minute or something that. And Kubrick took one look at it, completely halted production so he could squeeze in some games.
Full day. He shut it down for a full day. That's it, guys. Right, everyone go home. Done. Fucking brilliant.
He's got the Steadicam. He looks at Tony Burton. Oh, chess, is it?
Yeah, sit down, Garrett Brown. Lovely.
The one, I suppose you would say, special effect shot in the film is that kind of God shot of the maze that Jack is looking into as Wendy and Danny are walking around it.
Yeah.
Kubrick did this by building a replica of the middle section of that maze and placing it next to a tall apartment building. Mm-hmm. He got the camera crew to hang off the top of the building to get the shot, and then that shot of Danny and Wendy walking backwards and forwards, that was superimposed over the top of a scale model of the maze.
You
Wonderful
can't
stuff.
tell, can you, at all?
Not at all.
Not
I was looking,
all.
I was analysing that frame when I was watching it yesterday, and you just can't see the break at all.
Not at all.
No.
Wonderful.
Looks incredible. We've talked about Kubrick's career in detail on our Rankin' Kubrick podcast, which is still available to download, so check it out after this.
Yeah.
But in summary, Kubrick was already considered a genius filmmaker at this point with the likes of Paths of Glory, 2001 and A Clockwork Orange under his belt. So a true auteur at work and making one of the best films ever.
Definitely. You're not going to give Barry Lyndon any screen time at all, are you?
Not at all. No. Fuck Barry.
The cast.
Main cast of The Shining, we're going to focus solely on the Torrance family in the cast. So only one place to start, and that is with Jack Nicholson as Jack Torrance.
Oh, yeah.
Matt, Jack Torrance, Jack Nicholson, go.
He's just so intense, and I just don't think anyone else could have got to that intensity that he gets to in this, and in the way he does it on such a flick of the switch almost. Even when he starts to lose it, there's still just those little elements of the man maybe he was back in the day before kind of the pressures of being a family man got to him.
Yeah.
But he doesn't overplay that, because I don't think that there's room in the story for that. I think you have got to get to a certain point of madness with Jack the character, and Nicholson gets you there better than anyone else I think could have done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely amazing. What about you, Westy?
Yeah, there's such a precision to this role and a real personal undertone that I think has been well documented, but I don't think people knew it at the time. You know, the divorce he was going through, it involved him, writing a scene and saying to Kubrick, I need to put that in there. And I think Jack Nicholson in this is personally my favourite performance. There's loads to go off. I mean, Cuckoo's Nest is amazing. Chinatown is amazing. Five Easy Pieces is amazing. And even as good as it gets, it's probably as good as it gets. For that type of performance from that guy, he's the best person I've seen do the Kubrick stare. Nobody else.
That Kubrick stare is amazing.
He nails it. And he doesn't do anything. It's one look and a push in, and that pushes it. That could go closer for me. He was great on set. He was lovely with everybody. He would take his time doing his lines and doing his performances, because he knew it was take after take after take. So he would delay a little bit, and it would get at 8 o'clock. Once it got to 8 o'clock at night, he was on overtime. So his pay just went through the roof. So it got to 8 o'clock at night, and every member of the crew got a glass of champagne because, hey, Jack Nicholson's on overtime. But everyone enjoyed it.
Wonderful.
It's just great. He's absorbed by this performance as Jack Torrance is by the hotel, and you totally get it. It's superb. Love him in this. Endlessly watchable. Fantastic.
Yeah, I think it's an amazing performance. Few things that I've picked out. The film was shot in sequence, which is unusual for a film to be shot sequentially, and it tracks Jack's gradual decline. But Nicholson is kind of able to jump seamlessly from this decline back to kind of relative normality. So, example of this is when he's been to room 237 and the worst of the worst has happened, horror of horrors, and he's no coming back from that. Yeah. But he goes back to the hotel room and sees Wendy and says that Danny did it to himself. And he's normal Jack that we kind of saw in the interview.
Yeah.
So he's able to flit between the insane Jack
Yeah.
and the normal Jack amazingly. And you mentioned about the Kubrick stare. That's one of the most impressive shots I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Where it's that slow push in when Wendy and Danny are out in the snow.
Yeah.
And Jack's just looking out, like up through his eyelids. His eyebrows are raised up as well.
Yeah.
That's just them dead eyes. What a shot.
The thing about that scene as well is just that light, the way it's lit. It's just such a white light, and that's the only part of the set that was lit from an external source. Everything else uses practicals. So John Alcott used practicals and built them all in so that the whole set was lit by what you actually see.
Yeah.
But outside of that window, there was 70,000 watts worth of light pumped in. Right?
And it looks legit, doesn't
it?
it?
To put that in perspective, like if you stick your light on in the sitting room, that's 15 watts. And they wondered why there was a fire. No idea how that burned down. Oh, fuck me, I don't know. Yeah, probably because of that. But that's just the way that's lit, and obviously he's looking directly into lights as well, which would be completely disorientating, but nails it on every level. And he's changed the way I eat peanuts forever. When I saw this at the bar, he just like makes that fist and like eats them like that. And it's just this really bombastic performance. He's so happy to be at the bar. It's fucking excellent. He's really cool. And then he just flips, and you just think, Jesus Christ! And I've never seen an actor act so well with just their eyes, just their eyebrows. It creates such
those
an
eyebrows play.
His eyebrows
create part.
just such an emotion through it.
Where do you stand on eyebrow work, Nicholson or Roger Moore?
Roger Moore uses 1, Nicholson uses 2. So Nicholson for me.
Different eyebrows, different needs.
So
if you want to be scared, let's go with Jack. If you want to be charmed, let's go with Rog.
Cider, sometimes lager. Bond, sometimes Torrance. Different.
There's some really, what I think are amazing character nuances in Nicholson's performance of Jack Torrance, and it comes up a few times in the film. When he's tracking Wendy in the Colorado lounge up the stairs, and she's swinging the bat. Wendy, give me the bat, and he goes, he makes that noise. And then when he's gesturing, when he's going into the gold room after she's just accused him of beating Danny up or strangling Danny, he's going crazy with his hands, and
If you notice on that scene as well, that's every time he passes a mirror, so it's like a reflection of himself. Like he sees himself and he reacts to it. That he doesn't want to see himself. He doesn't like who he is, which is wonderful. When he sticks his tongue out as well, he's like, "Blah." When he's talking to Wendy with the bat.
Wendy!
Brilliant.
About when he's in the storage room and he's telling her, go and check out the snow cat, and go check it out.
And he's like tapping the door. It's that
surprise coming to you.
That camera on the floor as well. Have you seen the behind the scenes of Kubrick just like underneath them? Like
with a light bulb.
Yeah, shooting up. Superb.
Yeah. Fantastic.
I love all the little passive-aggressive bits he has going with Wendy through the film, like when she brings him the eggs. It starts off quite nice and charming and quite light, but then she gives him the advice on how to write. Oh, it'll be fine. He's like, yep, that's all it is. It's like, shut up. Stop telling me my job.
Stephen King didn't like Nicholson as Jack because he felt that people would already identify him as a loony, in his words, because of One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. And he felt that you should see Jack's gradual descent into madness as opposed to already being mental.
Yeah.
What do you think of that?
I think it comes from a perspective where he's quite bitter about it, what his novel had been transformed to in the film. But I've got a quote actually from Jack Nicholson, and he says, you come up against somebody like Stanley who says, yes, it's real, but it's not interesting. And I think that's absolutely key for Nicholson's performance here. Because what you've got to do, you've got to realise this is a 2-hour film. You don't have the time to chart a slow, gradual descent into madness. You just don't. You have to use shorthand in this film, and that's what Nicholson's performance gives you. Because you go into this and you've seen Nicholson in the past, you know he's an actor who's done very dark roles in the past, not just Cuckoo's Nest, he's done a few of them. So when he snaps, I absolutely believe it. Whereas if you'd cast someone else who may have taken a more subtle approach, I wouldn't have necessarily bought it so much. And I certainly probably wouldn't have been anywhere near as scared.
No.
I think maybe Stephen King saw a little bit too much of himself in Jack Nicholson's performance. And
quite
it's semi-autobiographical, isn't it?
Yeah.
King wanted an everyman actor for the role and suggested a few names. John Voight, Christopher Reeve and Michael Moriarty. Imagine Christopher Reeve walking in there.
Flying in there. Flying out the maze at the end.
Kubrick had, on the other hand, considered Robert De Niro, Robin Williams, and Harrison Ford for Jack.
No, I don't know.
He discounted De Niro after watching Taxi Driver because he said that he wasn't psychotic enough. Which, I mean, did he watch it? But on the flip side of that, he dismissed Robin Williams after watching Mork and Mindy because he thought he was too psychotic.
Really?
Yeah.
That makes
These two things mixed up. Are you sure about this?
That's what he thought. Very strange. Kubrick said that Nicholson was one of the best actors in Hollywood, perhaps on par with the greatest stars of the past like Spencer Tracy and Jimmy Cagney.
Yeah, I mean, he got the role because he was originally cast in his Napoleon biopic.
Yes.
And so he thought he'd be great for that.
He had
so
him down as Napoleon.
Yeah,
right.
So it kind of carried on from that when that fell through, and he's like, well, what's the next thing to do? And he just kept Nicholson on board because, it's Jack Nicholson.
Yeah, of course. What are you going to do? To get the kind of required manic persona of his character, Nicholson only ate cheese sandwiches for 2 weeks straight before production started because he really fucking hated cheese sandwiches. He grew increasingly frustrated at the script changes, which happened on a daily basis. He ended up not reading them, knowing that they would likely change before shooting started. So his line reading was done on set, just before the cameras rolled. And there's a behind-the-scenes doc, quite famous, shot by Vivian Kubrick, who was Stanley's daughter. And it's really incredible to see the behind-the-scenes footage of Nicholson reading his lines with an assistant, and then the camera sweeps over to Duvall, who's doing the same thing while getting her makeup done, and then the camera sweeps round again to Kubrick on the typewriter doing rewrites. That's all captured in one camera move.
Yeah, brilliant.
That's absolutely incredible to see.
Yeah, she captured 80 hours of footage.
And it's a half-an-hour doc.
It's a half-an-hour documentary.
So a 6-time Golden Globe winner and one of the few actors to be awarded 3 Oscars. He was pretty much at his peak at this point, is now considered probably one of the best. Basically, everybody loves Jack Nicholson.
Well, they do. And as he was at his peak, both in physical and mental and emotional performance, but he asked for 2 days off because he had back pain. He told Stanley Kubrick, I've got severe back pain, I need a couple of days off. They shut down production for 2 days so that Jack Nicholson, a huge tennis fan, could go to Wimbledon with 2 girls. And Kubrick saw him on the telly.
Oh, amazing.
Oh, busted.
And he was fucking furious, apparently. Nicholson, man, what a guy. 2 girls? I'll take 2. Wimbledon.
Yeah. 1, 2.
Yeah.
So we'll move on to Shelley Duvall, who plays Wendy Torrance.
Yeah.
What do you think of Wendy, Matt?
I think time has been very, very kind to her in this. I think she got such a bad rep for her performance in this film. And I can understand why, but Wendy is a character that is designed to get on people's nerves, and Shelley Duvall can only read the lines that she's being given, and she can only act according to the directions that she is given by Kubrick. And it's that classic thing of just because you find a character really, really irritating or annoying or whatever, it doesn't mean that it's a bad performance.
No, you're right.
I think if it's a bad performance, you don't want her to get out at the end. And I absolutely want her to get out and escape and live at the end.
Good point.
Agreed.
And you only do that if Duvall's good enough to make you care about Wendy, despite the whining and how mousy she is and how she won't stand up for herself and she's taken all this shit.
Yeah.
You do care about her. You do think there's a really decent person in there, and that's all due to the performance that Duvall gives. And I do think it's taken time for us and for people in general probably to come around to that and look past the kind of initial impression you get of her. And I think it's a great performance.
Yeah, it's a very good point. What about you, Westy?
Yeah, I feel there's a real kind of repressed emotion to Wendy, that she's seen something that you don't know she's seen. She's gone through something that you don't know she's gone through. And there's a real backstory and a depth to her without having that exposition or that explanation. I do know that Shelley Duvall was, she didn't have a great time on set. She was pushed a lot harder than anyone else was. It's a hard role to do. It's a hard role to take on. But the more I watch this, the more I realise how ruled she is by Jack, how governed she is, and how she can't make any decisions for herself, and she can't really do anything for herself. She's completely trapped in an abusive relationship, and you get it from the trip up from her convincing Danny that it's a good idea to go to the hotel. I don't really think she knows it's a good idea.
No, it definitely isn't.
You kind of get all that from that performance, and she is very on edge and scared all the way through the film. Even when she's talking to Holden at the start, I have to leave a trail of breadcrumbs just to find my way out. And I know I said in there, it was one of my things that I didn't like about the film when I talked about it in the Kubrick episode, was her performance. Yes. But having watched it so many more times since then and researching into it and looking more into it just to talk about it, I realised that this performance is absolutely amazing considering the circumstances. It's amazing that she finished it. It's amazing that she got to the end. And she has since thanked Kubrick for it. He's got that performance out of her. She's allowed him to do that. And she's allowed herself to be this open, and I think it's nothing short of fantastic. It should just be applauded for how good it is, really.
Yeah. God bless Shelley Duvall's heart.
Too right.
I'm very much the same as you, Westy, that this has been a performance that I've often really disliked for years and years.
Yeah, same.
And even when we did the Ranking Kubrick podcast, not a fan of her performance, but the more you watch it and the more you understand what happened. But to the casual viewer, you're not going to get that.
No.
It takes a lot of rewatches, and it takes to understand more about what went on behind the scenes to understand this performance. And there are still a few parts that I can't get away with, but how would you react if your family's in gradual mental decline as you're trapped in a snowbound hotel? You'd crack up like she does. So, it's a perfect performance. She's not one-dimensional, but when she screams at Jack and says, "You did this to him. You did this," that's blood-curdling, and that's a really good performance. And her reactions to Jack axing the door down, those are fantastic. And when she bursts into the gold room,
just at the end of her tether, just completely exhausted, and you can tell.
Well, Kubrick cast Duvall because he thought she had this eccentric quality and would be able to play the type of character that would put up with Jack's shit. But Kubrick's behind-the-scene treatment, like we've said, has kind of become the stuff of Hollywood folklore. The film was shot in sequence, like we said, and Kubrick intentionally used this as a way to slowly break down Duvall so that her frustration, illness, mental breakdown, whatever, that's right there on the screen. Kubrick had problems with her line delivery, her reactions, pretty much all aspects of her performance. And she said, "From May until October, I was in and out of ill health because the stress of the role was so great. Stanley pushed me and prodded me further than I've ever been pushed before. It's probably the most difficult role I've ever had to play." Which is, it's not nice to hear. And on that documentary that we talked about, there's a point where Duvall, having just come round after fainting, is complaining that her hair is coming out in clumps, and that's due to kind of mental exhaustion. And Kubrick says, "Don't sympathise with Shelley." Which leads me to the next point that we've covered on previous episodes when talking about difficult directors. We talked about it with David Fincher. We talked about it with Billy Friedkin as well. But a question that comes from Jamie Russell on Patreon, he says, how far should a director be allowed to go in order to get his or her vision? So we have touched on this, but what are your thoughts on this, Matt?
I think the key word in that question is allowed, because who is going to stop the director short of a producer coming down on set, or God forbid, actually police getting involved? Who is going to stop a director pushing an actor as far as he or she wants them to go, until you get to the point where that actor will stand up for themselves? So for me, it's always going to be a judgment call, and it's always going to be essentially getting that consent from the actor as to how far they can be pushed. One thing we don't know, for example, is how much did Kubrick realise he was pushing Duvall? Maybe he thought she's going to be tough enough to take this, because probably Jack Nicholson quite possibly was. So I think there needs to be more of an effort made from the director to basically check in on every actor, if they are going to push them and keep pushing them as far as they can, that they're going to be okay at the end of it, because some actors will take it, some won't, and if some can't, I don't think they should be judged for that.
No, nice point. Westy?
I totally agree with Matt. I think it should be a collaborative effort, because filmmaking is a collaborative medium. It's about everybody coming together and doing the best that they possibly can. And if a director is trying to push that kind of performance out of an actor or an actress, there's a difference between, keeping a secret and pushing for what you want to see and then revealing it to everyone. aren't I a master of my craft because I've pushed this person to a certain area? On the other hand, yeah, because that is an area that they're not expecting to go. So if you tell people this is where you need to go and keep pushing them to get there, they're going to automatically not think about their performance. They're going to think about getting to that place. So it is hard, but I do think that it is a sign of the times. I think Kubrick.
It is. Yeah.
Late 70s.
I mean, there's no way that had happened now.
Late 70s, early 80s, and I don't see a massive difference in these films that warrants this kind of, technique in which to work. Like, I can watch anything by the Coens or Clint Eastwood, who are
one take, man,
classically known for, like, that's it, boom, print. The Coen brothers would be like, that's it, perfect.
In my mind, I think he would have done this with any actress. I don't think it was Duvall, it was Kubrick. I think this is quite ugly behaviour, this, for me. I think this is all pure ego from Kubrick, that he thought that this is the only way I can do it in my head. This is the way I have to get the job done to get the desired effect. And in more aspects of movie making, I absolutely love that. His fingerprints are everywhere and I love that. But when it comes down to having an impact and a long-lasting impact on somebody's health, I don't think that's good enough. And I also think he's been a bit of a bully here because he didn't do that to Jack. They were best mates.
Yeah.
If somebody's just telling you that you're shit every day for 12 hours a day, then you must be shit. So I must have to do something better.
Yeah. And I mean, to be fair, I don't really think of Shelley Duvall in anything after this. I don't know if this...
Roxanne?
Yeah.
Roxanne?
Yeah. Small role.
Steve Martin, Roxanne?
Yeah, she's in
with the big
1987
nose.
classic.
Yeah.
It's Daryl Hannah, though, is the love interest, right?
Yeah, Daryl Hannah.
Oh, yeah, of course, yeah.
Why are we talking about Roxanne when we should be talking about The Shining? What the fuck have you done?
Well, you asked.
Yeah.
But that's it. Roxanne.
Yeah. Good film.
Yeah.
So learning all of this, going through all this shit to be in Roxanne.
Well, I mean, it may well be that Stanley Kubrick was a direct result of her not getting any great performances after this. She's thought, fuck that.
Well, yeah, it's arguable.
Stephen King wasn't a fan of the character of Wendy either. He called her one of the most misogynist characters ever put to film. She's basically there just to scream and be stupid, and that's not the woman I wrote about. So Shelley Duvall made her debut in Robert Altman's Brewster McCloud in 1970, which was the start of a 6-film back-to-back run of Altman films. She got a Best Actress award at Cannes for her performance in Three Women in 1977, and she also starred in Annie Hall before her role as Wendy Torrance. Continued to work in the 80s and 90s, but just didn't get the same critical or commercial success of her 70s output.
Definitely not, unless you're talking about Roxanne.
Or Popeye.
Popeye, fuck me.
Finally, in the Torrance family, we're going to talk about Danny Lloyd, who plays Danny Torrance. Danny boy!
Danny! I'm coming! I think he's wonderful. He's really watchable. He's really lovable. He's great, isn't he? Yeah. He's just like he's like me when I was 5 or 6. To have that,
big praise
on myself, on him.
He's a wonderful man, just like me.
It's how I thought I was when I was 5 or 6. I thought it was an absolute fucking nightmare. But to have that freedom to just like ride around on a big trike, like that's all you want to do when you're that age, right? It's great. And like Garrett Brown made a sling for him and hung him off the Steadicam and carried him around because he was the same weight as the camera on the Steadicam.
Perfect.
So he was just carried him around the whole set. He had a whale of a time, and Kubrick has said that he didn't want him to know what kind of a film he was in, and he thought he was in a drama, and he was just doing all these things.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
How's he done that? Incredible.
All these bits of the performance, like when he's screaming, when he sees that, the elevator of blood, and you get that shot of him like just screaming silently.
Yeah.
How do you say, you're just in a drama, just scream? But there's just that element of like, there's that look on his face. But he's been quoted as saying he's shown his kids this film since, and they just take the piss out of his haircut. What's your hair like, Dad? Ridiculous, that. Absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, I don't know why his performance doesn't get talked about more when people talk about great child performances, because I think, okay, Kubrick shielded him from the horrific stuff, but even so, he's still got to bring a level of intensity for a young kid that age. And I think he does really well. I don't think he makes him overly cutesy.
No, not at all.
I don't think, he's too sugary sweet or anything like that. Did you know when he found out when he got the role, though? It was in the middle of his 5th birthday party that he got the role.
Oh, nice.
Amazing.
What a present that is.
Yeah, too right.
Yeah, I'm going to take you to England for 13 months. Happy birthday.
Loads of blood heading towards you. Enjoy, son.
I love it, actually. I think it's the moments when he's shining that really impress.
Yeah.
When he's staring into space and he's having these horrendous visions and then kind of he's shaking, he's almost gone into spasm. And there's a moment in the US version where Danny has been completely overtaken by Tony, and he's saying in that Tony voice, "Danny's not here, Mr. Torrance."
Yeah.
That's some performance by a 5-6-year-old dad. Utterly chilling. And the part where he sat down and the ball comes rolling to him and he stands up and he shouts, "Mom!"
Yeah.
He shouts out. It's full of fear.
Yeah.
And kind of reluctance to search, but he needs to go and have a look to see where that ball's come from. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Really, really great moment. The moment where Wendy's shouting at Jack in the Colorado Lounge that you did this. That isn't Danny Lloyd, that's a life-size dummy of him.
Yeah.
Right.
Do you think you can tell?
Yeah. I can tell because I've seen it 3,000 times. So
Yeah, I'd never noticed until I found out, and then when I found out and looked at it, it's ridiculous.
Right.
Probably the best relationship that Danny has at the Overlook is with Dick Halloran, played by Scatman Crothers. What do you think of this dynamic and Scatman Crothers as Dick Halloran?
I love him.
He's the greatest.
He's just so trustworthy and he's so genuine. Like when he's like, "Do you want some ice cream?" and he takes his hand. Like, I would definitely leave my kids with Dick Halloran all day. Go and learn how to cook shit. Like, go and get some ice cream. It's absolutely fine. Like, what a wonderful man. He wasn't necessarily the greatest actor in the world. He was brought on because he knew Jack Nicholson and they worked together in Cuckoo's Nest. And this is classic because it set the Guinness World Record of the most amount of takes for a single medium close-up, which is when he's talking about The Shining and his grandma. It was 148 takes. Fucking hell.
That's crazy. What are you doing? 148
Like,
close-ups.
Danny Lloyd wasn't even there when he was doing that close-up. Everyone had gone to bed. It's just Kubrick just rubbing his temples, just going, "Do it again, do it again." But if you watch it now, I don't even know what take that is. I'd love to know it was like take 2 or something. But
He does the same, or a similar kind of thing when Halloran's at his hotel in Florida.
Yeah.
Firstly, Halloran loves massive pictures of naked women in his room.
Yeah. What kind of hotel is that?
Them. But there's that close-up, and it just starts out medium shot and pans in.
Yeah.
He's not doing anything.
No.
Just his face.
Yeah.
60 takes.
Fuck
Just
it.
his face.
There's only so much he can do with your face. What more did he want?
every time I see him, though, it's just such a joy. When he's walking around that kitchen, and then he goes in, let's just let me quote at the start, and he goes, "Well, it's the dried goods and the canned goods." And it's like, bum, 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 bum. And you're like, oh, fucking yes. I feel automatically comfortable when he's on the screen.
Yeah.
We got
feel
dried peaches, dried raisins, dried prunes. You know, Mrs. Torrance, you gotta stay regular if you want to be happy.
That's my favourite line. I want to put a smile on your face, go and have a shit. Fucking great. And he's right.
Wow. What do you think of Crothers, Matt?
What I love about him is he's just so like avuncular and friendly, and straight away you trust this guy. Out of everyone you've met so far in the film, he's by far and away the most like comforting presence.
Yeah.
Oh,
And you feel, oh, you know what? As long as he's on screen, I think I'm going to be okay. And I love how that scene between them when they're talking in the kitchen. It's the second bit of exposition you get in the film after the interview, which has explained the history of the Overlook, and now you get an explanation of what The Shining is. And again, it's really simple, it's really elegant. There you are, boom, we're done. And in particular, I love it when Danny's talking to him and he mentions room 237 for the first time. And it's so imperceptible, but you can just tell his blood has frozen. And he's like, oh, shit.
I love
He
that.
asked him if he's scared of it. He's like, no, I ain't.
Yeah,
He definitely is.
yeah.
His delivery of that when he's talking about room 237 and he says, stay out.
Yeah.
Stay out.
Yeah.
That's really, really, really good. Love that.
Yeah, it's brilliant.
So, like, when he tries to persuade him, there's nothing in there. Nothing. You're like, no, there's clearly something in there.
Yeah, there obviously is.
That's the least
totally
convincing
changed.
nothing I've ever heard in my life.
The continuity editor is in that documentary that I spoke about earlier on, and she has a really great story about Scatman Crothers. She goes up and she's like, because he never knew his lines. So Kubrick says to her, June, can you go up and speak to Scatman Crook, make sure he knows his lines? So she goes up to him and he says, I'm not doing my lines with anybody except Stanley Kubrick. So she comes back. Kubrick said, does he know his lines? She said, well, he said he won't do them with anyone but you. Kubrick calmly walks over to him and said, if I send June to ask you to read your lines, that is law. You do what I tell you to do on this set. And Scatman Crook's like, yeah, I'm sorry, Mr. Kubrick. I'm sorry, Mrs. Kubrick. And then June, as the continuity editor, said, couldn't fucking get rid of him for the rest of the shoot. He was coming up and was like, do you want us to read my lines with you? I know my lines now. Constantly hounding her. Like, she's like, I couldn't get rid of him after that.
Amazing. Moving back to Danny, The Shining is Lloyd's one and only major film role. He starred in a TV movie a couple of years after and does have a brief cameo in The Shining sequel, Doctor Sleep. But after trying and failing for other roles, he gave up the dream when he was around 14. Cutthroat business.
Yep.
Fair enough.
Seems happy guy, though.
Oh, yeah, wonderful man. Just like Westy.
Yep.
There you go. We're both grown into our own. He started to say it.
So a small cast with varying degrees of success throughout the career. The Shining was a high point for all involved, though.
Absolutely.
Yep.
The middle.
Into the middle of the film, the Torrances move into the hotel, but the ghosts of previous patrons begin to reveal themselves to Danny. Jack shows his first major signs of mental instability as Wendy interrupts him while he's at work, and Danny appears, all busted up.
Yeah.
Having been accused of attacking Danny, Jack visits the gold room and manages to unwind with a little drink before going to investigate the terrifying Room 237. So, two little scenes back to back. Firstly, the gold room. Westy,
Yeah.
what are your thoughts?
Like I said before, just he's walk up to that when he reacts to himself in the
amazing.
mirrors, and then he turns and goes in, and you just get this huge grandeur. And the set designer
What a set.
Yeah, he said 5 to 6 days painting tiles gold. So he was just by himself, and he was every day just painting these small
Thankless.
tiles that be stuck on the walls, stuck on the ceiling. It comes back to the mirror theory of Jack looking at himself in the mirror, covers his eyes, and sell his soul for a glass of beer.
Yeah.
This is where it spins. So he sells his soul to the hotel,
Yeah.
and then when he opens his eyes, the mirrors are completely covered over by Lloyd, by booze. Can't see himself, and then he can completely just come into this character, come into this role. It's an unrecognisable Jack. It's like he's so happy. You know, it's when he's straight into the camera and he's like, but slow tonight, isn't it? And then that laugh, and
Yeah.
then you cut to Lloyd from nowhere.
Yeah.
Oh, fucking every
Amazing.
single time I'm like,
Amazing.
that's so unsettling, but so amazing at the same time.
I mean, to talk about that approach up the hallway when he's walking past the mirrors, and it's obviously just the angle that the camera's up. If you watch it again, his reflection appears in the mirrors before he draws equal with the mirrors.
Yeah,
By the time he is what looks like equal to the mirrors, he's got no reflection.
Right.
nice.
You know, it's just
Amazing.
a lovely little touch. And again, yeah, the gold room, it's an incredible set. Again, it's playing tricks for your head because that doesn't seem like it should fit into what we've seen in the Overlook so far. It's absolutely massive. This is the one where he makes a pact with the Overlook, isn't it? When he says he'll give his soul for a beer. That's it. He's gone. He's done now. And everything spins off from here. And I love how this scene, you can watch it and you forget you're watching a horror film.
Yeah,
Because the performance is so good and the writing is so good, and you're watching this guy basically kind of spill his soul out and kind of confess what's been driving him mad. Yeah, you do. You completely forget he's talking to either a ghost or talking to himself.
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. It's like if you've ever made a mistake in your life and you're trying to admit it to yourself. This is how you do it. You go I did hurt him once, okay.
Yeah,
And, you know, just a little bit. Then you try to reason with yourself.
Yeah.
And it is. And Lloyd doesn't give him any feedback whatsoever.
No.
Oh no, yeah.
It's incredible.
That's great. When he does, he looks kind of like, I never touch one goddamn hair in his head, and then he kind of looks side to side. Okay, I did touch him. Okay, it was 3 goddamn years ago.
Yeah.
And he's just like shaking the ice around in the glass, just like thinking about whether he should say it or not.
A few extra foot-pounds of energy per second.
Per second.
Yeah.
Yeah, so good.
Yeah.
Wonderful. The guy who plays Lloyd, the bartender, is called Joe Turkel. Bonus points for naming the film that he's in 2 years after. 1982.
He's not in Raiders, is he?
It's 81.
Mad.
81.
Yeah. I don't know then.
He is Dr. Tyrell in Blade Runner.
Oh, fuck, of course he is.
Yes.
Oh,
Lovely.
Yeah.
all right.
He said that they rehearsed this bar scene for 6 weeks and
Yeah.
that the shoot lasted a whole day, 9 a.m. to 10:30 p.m.
Yeah.
There's not that much in there that needs to be done in a whole day.
Well, there's 40 takes each, let's be honest.
Fair enough.
So it will fill it. I love just the end of the scene as well, where Wendy comes in and she's running down, she's screaming, she interrupts everything, she completely sparks him out of what he's talking about, whether he's talking to himself, and everything disappears, but you don't question it. And then he says to her, "Are you out of your fucking mind?" Like, what have you been doing? Talking to yourself, imagine a bottle of Jack Daniels, talking to Lloyd.
Fantastic. So Wendy comes down the hallway, says there's a crazy woman in one of the rooms who tried to strangle Danny.
Yeah.
And then Jack goes to investigate. So, room 237.
Room 237, for me, is still the hardest scene to watch in the film because it's just so slowly built. And the mirror that you see Jack in when he's in their apartment, if you look on the floor of 237, there's that outline which looks exactly the same as the mirror that Jack sees himself in.
Right.
So it's almost like a reflection of himself, and dealing with the past and dealing with what he sees and the reflection of what he sees. And what he sees is this idyllic life and this idyllic woman, and he sees himself as attractive and approachable and he can get away with anything. And then when he sees the reflection of what he's really like, it becomes horrific and bloated and disgusting. But there's a lot with the set design. I think the set design of 237 is incredible. I think, just the colours used, it's all just really big, foreboding, all purples and dark greens, and it's the doors open, come on in, she's beautiful, coming out of the bath, well, yeah, wonderful, I buy into this as well, but then you're punished for it.
Yeah, it starts well, doesn't it?
But it's the way he backs out, and he's pulled away from it, which mirrors him and Wendy at the end, going up the stairs, and her backing away, her arms are out, out in front, his arms are out in front at the end. It's all this duality and all this kind of mirror theory comes together in room 237, which I think is fantastic.
Matt, you getting over the nightmare of 237?
No.
Well, yeah, basically, no, I will never, ever get over this scene. My anxiety just goes through the roof watching this bit. Everything about it is horrible. Everything about it is telling me to just turn the film off, watch a Pixar film or something, skip the scene, come back later. Everything is just off in a really, really weird way. Like you can't quite put your finger on. There's like too much furniture in the room. It just all feels really cramped and constricted.
The penis-shaped carpet.
Oh,
phallic-shaped
loads
carpet,
of penises on the carpet.
Yeah, awful.
The big, booming heartbeat sound that's overlaid over the top of it as well. And then when he goes in that bathroom, I don't know if you guys agree, but the bathroom to me also looks like it's painted in the same shade of green that Danny's bathroom is, when he's first talking to Tony. So it's the same shade of green.
Oh, yeah.
The shower curtain is pulled over again, just like that. So I think it's meant to mirror that scene. So it takes you back to then. And it's the one time in the film where it gets a bit arty and a little bit experimental, because once he stopped necking on with the attractive woman, it turns into that hag that's coming towards him. It starts undercutting with her still in the bath and kind of rising about the bath, going back and forth between the two, which, obviously that doesn't make any logical sense, but it gives it the sense of a nightmare. That's what this scene feels like to me. Yeah. That just the worst kind of nightmare that you just want to wake up out of it. You just want to get out of that room as quick as you can.
Yeah, he can't get out there quick enough, can he?
Oh,
he's taking his time. You're like, well, you just fucking get out of there.
I know.
Yeah.
I mean, it's incredible. I think that's the one that stands out, this scene. When I first watched it, I mean, Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
It's, just one arse cheek rotten on that old hag. Awful. And the editing, like you said, Matt, the editing in this scene kind of reminds me of that "You Talking to Me" scene from Taxi Driver.
Right, yeah,
It snaps away and it goes back. She cuts from Jack's terrified face, to her coming towards him with her arms out, and she's in the bath and she's riding out. All the while, there's this insane cackle over the top.
Oh, that sound, man!
And then that oppressive noise of the score as well. The whole thing is just an attack on the viewer.
Yeah. And her, she's awful.
She's not pretty. We mentioned some of the theories earlier on, but one of the most talked about is that the 1969 moon landing was faked and filmed by none other than Stanley Kubrick. So what I'm going to do now is hand over to Westy,
Yeah.
who I'm sure has got some well-rounded but assertive thoughts. So, Westy, what do you think of the moon landing theory?
Right, well-rounded and assertive thought.
Right, okay.
Right,
Here he goes.
Right, everyone shut the fuck up. Honestly, right, was really bought into this to the point where I was obsessed with it. Like, I thought that this is what this film's about, obviously.
Yeah.
Like, there's so many things that point to it being true that I want it to be true more than it actually is. Like, it is batshit, and it is. I mean, I've matured a little bit, right?
That was 2 months ago that we had that conversation.
I do believe that there is elements in here, but if you look at the facts, there is facts, but it is mental. But like, he's shooting 2001: A Space Odyssey at the time of the moon landing, right? Look at 2001, right?
Yeah,
fucking massive back projection.
Yeah, it looks amazing.
Looks amazing, right? Do that, but less quality. All right, yeah, Kubrick.
I can do that.
Yeah, moved to England. Never travelled again. Never went back to America again. Shot every film in England. Scared shitless, right?
Yeah.
We've got the Apollo 11 sweater that Danny wears.
Yes.
Yep.
Right, so he rises up from the spot. He moves to room 237. Apparently, it's 237,000 miles to the moon.
Yes.
It isn't. It's further than that. But
It's just a little bit more.
Yeah.
238,000.
at the time, that's probably Kubrick's analysis of it. That makes sense. They change it from 217 to 237 because that's the amount of distance to the moon, right? I don't believe we landed on the moon. I'm putting that out there. I don't believe that happened.
Ball clear.
Okay.
It is bollocks, but I would love it to be Stanley Kubrick who made that film. But
you don't think it was?
I think. I don't think it's in this film to say that he admitted that he did it, but I do think he did. I'm totally coming around here.
That's the moment that I wanted.
Yeah. No. Right. The moon landing was directed by Stanley Kubrick. Without a shadow of a doubt. I don't care. I try to be mature about it. I don't care. He definitely did it. Right? The twins are the failed Gemini missions. Right? Gemini, twin. Fair enough. 7 missions went up. 6 landed. There's 6 crates of 7-Up in the storage room. Coincidence? I don't think there is. All right? Holleran,
Do the math.
do you do the math? Where does Holleran live? Florida. Where did they launch it from? Florida. You got the eagle on the windowsill of Ullman's office, right? Which is constantly obscuring with his lovely hair.
Yeah.
But the original module was nicknamed the Eagle, but that's been covered up by America because he represents America with the red, white, and blue. Looks like JFK. He's got the hair. He's covering it all up. It's fucking fact. It's all here. Do you know what
It's
I mean?
all here. It's all here in the notes that you wrote.
Yeah, that I've just got off the internet. Which everyone knows is absolute fact. Conspiracytheory.net. I've spoken to Jim Core about this at length. It's the most interesting theory. There's lots of elements. Look it up yourself. I'm not going to sit here and sound like a tinfoil hat moron, which I already do.
Yeah.
Too late.
Done and dusted. Who gives a fuck? Stanley Kubrick directed the moon landing. It's here as fact in The Shining.
And Matt, your take on that? A riposte, if you will?
Fucking riposte. I have to lower myself to that. Come on. Absolutely ludicrous. It is. Have you not seen the footage of someone accusing Buzz Aldrin of it being fake and then Buzz Aldrin actually punched the guy in the face?
Yeah, that's real. That's the only thing that is
right.
real. Yeah, if someone had pointed out a lie in my life, I would punch them as well.
Well, I would pay good money to see Westy say this to Buzz Aldrin's face. That's all.
I will. Get him on. Get him on the next episode.
I'm not going to invite Buzz Aldrin on the show so you can have him out.
He'd be on the phone and be like, Buzz, what do you think about The Shining? Not this again.
Oh, man.
So that's a no for you, Matt.
That's a no for me, sorry. Can't even entertain that thought at all.
All right.
Well, Westy's gone through some compelling evidence there, and there are a few other things. The drink Tang, which is closely linked to the space travel. They used it on the Mercury spaceflight in 1962. That's seen in the hotel pantry. The key fob for room 237 has the word room number 237. The only capitalised letters are ROOM for room and N for the first letter of the number. And it's argued that the only words that these letters can make are moon and room. Moon room. However, the theorists have failed to identify that the word mono can also be spelled from that, and also the word moron, which is appropriate.
Well, not really. I mean, mono means one, which is one theory. All work and no play makes Jack a dull boy. All, A-L-L, that's Apollo 11. Right? Come on, guys, wake up. Wake up, sheep.
Jack's dialogue as well, when he's talking to Wendy about his responsibilities to his employers. I've signed a contract.
Yeah.
That's actually apparently Kubrick talking about his responsibilities to the US government.
Of course it is.
Well, the Room 237 thing, it was supposed to be 217, and that's where it is in the book, but it was changed to Room 237 at the behest of the Timberline Lodge. They acted as the exterior for the Overlook Hotel. They thought that the film would put future guests off staying in that room if they used a number that was in existence, so they chose a number that they didn't have in the hotel.
Yeah, how convenient.
Well, Room 217 is the most requested room at the hotel now, which is strange. My thoughts on this, though, if Kubrick did stage the whole thing and it's all massively hush-hush and no one's supposed to know about it, why has he put so many over references into a film with a major star that he was hoping for huge box office success? That'll definitely keep everything under wraps, that.
He doesn't want to keep it under wraps, though. He wants to explain it. But then this is everything he's done here.
But do it cryptically.
Do it cryptically, because everything he's put in here is probably like a complete opposite of what the contract states. You can't say this, but you can. But he's found a way. He's that intelligent that he's underwritten the contract with visuals.
Full of shit.
You're full of shit.
Wonderful. Okay. We'll draw a line under that one then and move on. So at this point, Jack's completely flipped, heads back to the gold room, but there's a different atmosphere about the place. He meets Delbert Grady, who spills Advocat into his bourbon. So, Mr. Grady, back in the gold room, Matt. What do you think?
I wish I wasn't back in the gold room, because, again, it's just getting far too intense for my liking, the scene. It's starting to play with your head again. Because once they start talking, I love how Grady is just so polite and so genteel. You know, couldn't
He really is.
Couldn't be a nicer guy to start off with. But how that conversation turns on a dime, so subtly, so quietly, and all of a sudden you realise it's the Overlook talking to Jack, persuading him and putting the words in his mouth, what he needs to do to Wendy, what he needs to do to Danny, and make it all seem like it's his idea and it's the natural thing to do. The paint in that room, the shade of red, is absolutely...
The red.
Striking.
Yeah.
Striking. Absolutely ludicrous. Just that puts you on edge. Isn't it in this scene where they break the 180 rule as well?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that, again, just throws you off, even without necessarily calling your attention to it. It's just another step in, like, ramping up the tension. I think it's so cleverly done in that performance from... it's Philip Stone plays him, I think.
Yeah, that's the guy. Great performance.
Philip Stone, his performance here, it's really something for just this one scene he's got. Yeah. How cleverly he plays it. Yeah, I love the scene. Can't get enough of it.
Mm-hmm. Westy?
Yeah, okay. Well, I love this whole sequence. I love the gold room. I love how it's just full of people and there's just, party time and Jack's enjoying it and he's just let straight in and he's straight at the bar and then he's questioning who's buying his drinks and the house is buying his drinks and you're kind of thrown off a little bit. This whole sequence from the gold room to the bathroom is a game of chess. Like the whole film is, but this is a more condensed version of it. Have you noticed the girl who knocks over Grady into Jack has got that handprint on her dress?
No.
A bloody handprint.
Really?
Oh, really?
Which people say is the hotel pushing her into Grady for Grady to hit Jack.
Oh, wow.
Right, so
never
watch it again.
Before.
Yeah, it's on the back of a dress. There's a red bloody handprint. And haven't gone through the whole moon theory and sound like a fucking moron. But from a continuity point of view and watching interviews with the crew and everything else, like Kubrick wanted them to talk in the middle of the party. They wanted this whole dialogue to be when everything was going on around them. But they couldn't afford for all the extras to be there. Over 200 extras. The scene was massive and it was just going over budget. Kubrick wasn't bothered about time, he was bothered about budget, which is why he kept his crew small to about 10 people, and he kept the cast down to about 2 people having a dialogue scene. Yeah. So they realised that we can't afford to do this in this room, so they built the bathroom separately as they were shooting. So this whole bathroom scene was done on the fly.
Amazing.
They go into the bathroom just because they couldn't afford to keep it all in the gold room. They couldn't afford to pay the extras. They couldn't afford to keep that grandeur. And they break the 180-degree rule because we go into that bathroom and it's mirrors. There's just mirrors everywhere. And Jack susses out Grady by looking at him in the mirror and sees his true reflection of himself.
Yeah,
so
that's right.
Yeah, there's a lot talked about Charles Grady and Delbert Grady, and that they're both, different versions of the same
duality
person.
again.
Exactly. So we've got Delbert Grady in 1921, which is apparently when that scene was, which is the July 4th party that you see at the end. But then Charles Grady becomes Delbert Grady after he kills his family and kills himself. That's the person that he is, which gives the whole ending, because Jack, when he dies, becomes the caretaker. He's always been the caretaker.
He's always
they
been
recognise
the
him.
caretaker.
And this back and forth in the toilet is probably one of my favourite scenes of all time. I adore it. And that bit when he's just like, "Married man, are you, Mr. Grady?" Really high pitch, like, "I've got you fucking sussed here." At that point when he thinks he's got him sussed, and he's like, "Yes, two children." And then the break the 180-degree rule, do you know why he does that?
Shoot.
If you look into a mirror and you break the 180-degree rule, it's a complete reflection of yourself. It's a reflection of the scene that you're seeing. So you're seeing that scene in the mirror as Grady becomes who he is and starts explaining to Jack where he is and what he needs to do. You're in the mirror. You're in this reflection.
Love it.
Wow.
That's why he breaks it.
Fantastic.
That's the whole point. It's
That's
like,
insane.
he breaks the 100-degree rule. Well, what for? Because you are then the reflection of them characters. He is Charles Grady. Once
Fantastic.
that flips, that's where you are. And that's how he overpowers Jack, because you become that reflection and you're pushed into that. And there's bits where, even at the start when he's talking to Wendy and he changes, he's like, "That's all it is," like Matt touched on. You watch the camera pushes in and you are in that mirror. That's the reflection of who he is. And even when Danny's talking into the mirror, it pushes in, so you are Tony, you are a different character. So this sequence is a mirror image of the sequence. It's so clever, it makes us want to just dance around and walk out and tell strangers how good this is.
Wow.
Oh, dear me.
Just before he does go into the bathroom, I love the little character moments that Jack does here. He does this little dance after he gets his drink, and I love that he calls Grady Jeevesy, old boy.
Jeevesy!
Jeevesy! And then he puts that big advocate handprint on his back. That's hilarious.
Which mirrors the blood handprint on the dress, though.
Yeah.
If you watch it again, it's really clever.
On this set, Kubrick told all the extras in the gold room, the dance sequence, to only mouth their dialogue, not to speak it, because it just has an impact on the whole scene. Firstly, that's really weird for Jack Nicholson to walk onto that set where people are just mouthing. Silence. But also, I don't know this, but I wonder why that's why he told them just to mouth it, because speaking parts would get paid more?
Very possibly, yeah.
Yeah, quite possibly, yeah.
He's not concerned about time, but he is concerned about budget.
So the film is reaching its final act as Jack has been given instructions to correct his family.
If he may be so bold.
The crew.
Amazing behind-the-scenes work on The Shining that helped Kubrick perfectly capture his vision. We're starting with a screenplay which was written by Stanley Kubrick himself and novelist Diane Johnson. Matt, writing, what do you think of the writing on The Shining?
I think it's probably the most underrated part of it.
Oh.
They've taken this novel, which it's full of history, it's full of backstory for all the characters, it's got loads of texty to it, and they've had the bravery to go, nope, don't need any of that, threw pretty much 90, maybe 80% of that out the window. Wow. And they've just kept the framework, because they've realised that's all we need. The framework gives Kubrick, as director, all the ammunition he needs to do what he wants to do. It's that classic thing. What works on the page isn't necessarily going to work on the screen. I guess the script, I don't even think it has, your typical 3-act structure. And I think that's why a lot of people don't view it as the strength, because it maybe doesn't stand out like in, say, like the writing in The Exorcist, the way that stands out. Yeah. There's loads of lovely dialogue and character moments in The Exorcist. And they don't really care about that in The Shining. All they want to do is get that framework right, give Kubrick the ammunition that he needs to do what he wants visually, but it's also given that space for people to bring their own theories to it, and that's why there's so much interpretation. That's why we're talking about it so much, because the writing just gives so little weight in terms of explanation.
Yeah, I totally agree. Westy?
It's visual. It's written as a visual medium, and I think that's why it differs so far from King's novel, because it's written as a film. And this film is a journey. It's not a destination, because you don't ever get there. There's no ending. It's ambiguous. It's just a lesson in anxiety. And I think the best thing that the script does is it builds tension through ambiguity and anxiety in the unseen.
Yeah.
It's everything you don't see.
Lovely.
Like, another thing that isn't in the script at all, and it's a massive part of the film because we always talk about it, is those geographical inconsistencies in the Overlook. It's a massive part of what we talk about. It's not in the script at all. Nobody walks down that corridor and goes, hang on, how can there be a room here? There isn't space for a room. There's a stairwell on the opposite side. No one ever flags that stuff up.
Yeah.
Because the script has given those ambiguities in there. Kubrick can add those on a visual level, and he doesn't have to have the characters point them out.
And I think Kubrick had a lot of visual cues and dialogue cues, but I do think Diane Johnson needs a little bit more of a kudos for this, for tying it all together and to make it into some kind of story and make it cohesive, because it could just be a collection of really incredible visuals with no real punch. And even now, 40 years later, we're talking about it evolving even more. New ideas, new things put in there. What was he talking about? It's a constant evolution. It's a constant cycle. It's a constant reflection. This film doesn't end. This will go for the rest of your life. Once you're obsessed with this is going to go to me. This will be me last words. Will just be like, can you just tell us what The Shining's about? And then I'll die.
You imagine that as well. That's rewrite after rewrite, and that's every day. And the shooting was 13, 14 months. So how many rewrites? Fucking hell.
Thousands. Where Nicholson just stopped reading the script. Just give us it in the morning. All right.
As we said earlier, Kubrick loved The Shining from the get-go. The legend goes that when Kubrick was scanning books for some source material, his assistant would hear the thud of discarded book after discarded book being slammed off a wall in Kubrick's office. This happened for weeks until she didn't hear anything at all. Kubrick had discovered The Shining. A lovely anecdote, something which Stephen King doesn't believe happened for some reason. So, based on the Stephen King 1977 novel, he actually wrote a whole screenplay draft for the film, which Kubrick completely ignored. Didn't even look at one page of it.
Straight out the window.
What a dick.
Not interested though. Like, he's got his own vision of it. I think what he loved about the novel was the idea.
Instead, Kubrick decided to adapt the book himself with writer Diane Johnson. He'd read her novel, The Shadow Knows, and thought she'd be perfect as a writing partner. Kubrick and Johnson started out their collaboration in 1977, and for the first month they didn't write a thing down. They just started out asking questions to really understand the characters. Questions like, is Jack a nice man? Does Wendy love him? What kind of clothes would Wendy wear? That kind of thing. So they completely mapped out all of the characters within the screenplay.
Just made it visual.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. King said that he would get calls from Kubrick in the middle of the night asking him questions like, do you believe in God? When King replied yes, Kubrick slammed the phone down yelling, I knew it.
Madman.
Stephen King's vocal dislike for the film, one of the most famous stories in Hollywood, saying it was the only adaptation of his novels that he hated. He was happy with things like the Langoliers and the Tommyknockers, though, but he didn't like this one. Crazy. But there was a few reasons why he didn't like it. We mentioned the characters of Jack and Wendy, but he also said that the film lacked the passion and emotion of his novel, and that it was style over substance. He called it a big, beautiful Cadillac with no engine inside.
You're going to be pissed off if you've written something and someone's adapted it and they've left so much out that you've put in that's personal. That's going to hit home, and I think that's why he reacts the way he does to it.
Yeah, I think obviously everyone's allowed an opinion on everything, and I think particularly the author of a novel, you should give them more attention than anyone else. But I do think as soon as any author signs the rights to it and takes that money for a novel, they do lose a little bit of their right to voice an opinion on it, to the extent that King has over the years.
Yeah.
And the main difference between the two is tone. There's actually a lot of warmth in that novel between the family. It actually feels a lot more like a tragedy. And it's actually quite a redemptive novel, because at the end, Jack manages to break free from the influence of the Overlook and get Danny out of the hotel before it completely claims him. So he saves Danny's life.
Okay.
But I think it's a little bit naive on King's part to even think that wouldn't have happened. Yeah. And at some point, he does have to kind of get over it.
Yeah, I think so as well. I think that, strong words, but I think he should maybe be a little bit embarrassed about his comments now. I think it was fine to have those thoughts on initial viewing because everybody had those thoughts. It was derided by critics. Nobody liked it. But then it's gone under immediate reassessment. People weren't given what they were expecting, and there was a reaction to that, and that's what I would put Stephen King's reaction down to. But not now.
Yeah.
The more you begin to realise that it's stuffed full of all sorts of substance, and he didn't think it was full of any substance whatsoever, so I think you need to stop banging the drum about it.
Yeah, he does.
Shut up, King. Well, there's a scene later on when Halloran is on his way to the Overlook and he passes a wreck on the highway, and it's a red VW Beetle, which is what King drove in real life and which Jack drove in his novel. As we've mentioned, the novel's semi-autobiographical because King had struggled with alcoholism, family issues. As Jack drives a yellow Beetle in the film, a lot of people have taken this as kind of like a fuck you to King. That's what I think of your novel. It's shit. It's a wreck. And I do buy this because that scene's not essential to the plot. There's an insert later with Halloran driving in the snow, so we know he's on the way to the Overlook in that scene, so I don't really know, other than that, why that scene would be in there.
There's a lot of yellow to red conversions and red to yellow conversions. There's Jack walking into the gold room wearing red. There's a girl in a gold dress with a red handprint on the back. Lovely. There's the yellow handprint from the Advocar. It could be any drink. It has to be Advocar, which is yellow, which goes on Grady's back. There's the red of the toilet sequence. And then there's the red Beetle, and then there's the yellow one. So it always signifies a change and a shift. And I think what he did was he was like, well, that red Beetle was the novel and the ideas that King had, but he's crushed it and he's created something new. It's the same skeleton, it's the same model car, it's a different colour. That's what he's saying. Like, I'm taking your idea, I love your idea, I love your car, I want to drive it, but I don't like the colour of it. That's pretty much it.
Lovely. Do you know where the title The Shining comes from?
Go on then.
No, don't.
Instant Karma, John Lennon's song.
Oh, really?
Features the line, "We all shine on."
Yeah.
Yes.
Very nice. Another question from one of our patrons, Matt Lum, asks, do you guys think The Shining is King's best adaptation of his books? Also, is this better or more true to life than, say, It or Misery?
I think sometimes people, when they talk about what makes a great adaptation, I think they confuse that with, or equaling that to being a faithful adaptation. And I don't think the two necessarily go hand in hand. A great adaptation can be like The Shining, where it's, as I said before, it's just the framework, and Kubrick fills that framework with what he wants to do with it. And to my mind, that's a great adaptation. Equally, there can be adaptations where they change too much and they do lose the spirit of what the original source novel had. The recent version of Pet Sematary, that just tries to stick so faithfully to the novel, and it just doesn't work. Right. That's a great example of what works on the page doesn't translate to something working on screen. So is it the most faithful? Not by a long shot, but it is probably the best adaptation of taking that source material and then transforming it into what we get on screen.
Yeah. I haven't not read any Stephen King novels at all, but doing research for this, my key takeaway from it, and stop me if I'm wrong here, fellas, but the difference between the source material and the film is that the novel's kind of more a straight-up supernatural story. They're kind of like the ghosts of the Overlook, whereas the film is like a psychological study delving deep into the duality of man, as Westy's been saying throughout, and the hotel's macabre past is kind of a metaphor for that.
Yeah.
And that duality is reflected throughout. Mirrors, the Grady twins, two women in room 237, Danny and Tony.
Yeah.
No, it's definitely not the best interpretation of a Stephen King novel at all, but it is the best interpretation of a Stephen King idea.
Yeah.
Nice. Lovely. Okay, move on to John Alcott, who was the director of photography on the film. Aided and abetted by Garrett Brown. Obviously, there's loads of amazing camera work. What do you think of Alcott's work in the film, Westy?
A pure technician, and I think John Alcott as a technician, Garrett Brown on Steadicam as a technician, nail it.
Yeah.
Absolutely nail it. Nail his vision 100%, because if they didn't, you wouldn't see it.
Of course.
So,
Yeah, I think Kubrick is the kind of director who knows everybody's job better than they do. like from the top down, basically, even down to catering, probably.
Yeah.
I absolutely think Alcott will be part of that. But even if you don't know that, I think you're going to be impressed with what he delivers on screen, which, as Wesley says, it's obviously going to be what Kubrick wants him to do to the absolute nth degree. And I always think The Shining, it's obviously a film about a family trapped in a hotel, but it's also a story about a guy trapped in his own head. And I think this cinematography just captures that so well, how it's so comfortable in the big open spaces like the Gold Room, Colorado Lounge, the scenes outside, but it also really works in the claustrophobic sense in like Room 237, in the Torrance's room. There are little bits that like stand out, and obviously they're going to come from Kubrick, but I love how the camera moves with Jack's swing of the axe when he's bashed down. The way it just slams with it.
That's really remarkable, isn't it?
It is. It just adds so much savagery and so much power. Oh, yeah.
That's Kubrick operating.
How did they pull focus on that then, Westy?
Well, he's in one focal plane, so he doesn't move. So the focus is going to maintain on him.
Right.
And then all you're getting is a whip pan, so you don't need to pull focus on the whip pan. You just basically you find your start and your end point, and you kind of just whip between the
effective.
two, which is fantastic. Oh, it's fantastic.
There's an amazing tracking shot of Wendy outside in the snow as she goes to check out the snowcat. That's absolutely stunning. And that's captured by the Steadicam. Relatively new innovation in the world of filmmaking. It's mounted onto a gyroscopic arm which protects the camera from movement and allows the camera to fluidly move up and down through the scenes. It was used in films like Bound for Glory, Marathon Man, Rocky, Halloween. We talked about it in that episode at length as well. It's used almost exclusively in The Shining. And the inventor of the Steadicam, Garrett Brown, was on set to work his magic. What do you think of the Steadicam use? Big wheel is, I suppose, the one that really stands out, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's pioneered everything. And I think what he did with this is just elevate it to a new level. I think if the Steadicam had not been introduced on The Shining, I don't think it would have been as popular as it is now.
Wow.
I think it would have taken a lot longer for it to be recognised as an individual technique. But Garrett Brown was famously quoted as saying, on the set of The Shining, on that shoot, that's where he learned to control the damn thing.
Wow.
That's where he learned how to use it properly, because Kubrick wanted him to do things that he didn't think was necessary or he didn't think would work, but Kubrick pushed him and pushed that technique even further. And the production designer has been said he'd wake up in the morning, he'd go down to the set 5:30 in the morning, Garrett Brown would be running around the set through the corridors with an oxygen mask on just to get his fitness up so he could do the big wheel tracking shots with the kid.
Holy shit.
So Kubrick had the idea in Barry Lyndon to, instead of using tracks which he built in on Past Glory, he built into the trenches.
Yeah.
So you see the tracks. He didn't like that. So he just got a wheelchair on Barry Lyndon and started doing tracking shots on a wheelchair, so you didn't see the dolly, you didn't see the track. He then got one of the production designers to come in and one of the camera operators to come in and work with Garrett Brown and adapt the wheelchair to hold the Steadicam. So Garrett Brown was in a wheelchair on the Steadicam, so he made it even steadier, even faster, without anyone running around.
There's another quote by Garrett Brown, because he was one of the few people who actually really liked these multiple takes that Kubrick would do, because as he said, it allowed him to master this. And he said it was like trying to move a piano and play it at the same time. But it's so vital, the success of this film, because when you're on the big wheel with Danny, it just adds so much of like an ominous, threatening atmosphere, because it gives a real sense of speed, and you don't know what Danny's going to see whenever he comes to a corner, and it just adds tension, and it just adds a real sense of danger to the film, I think.
Yeah. It's the big wheel shots where it goes over the rug and the silence, and then that crescendo of noise as it hits the wood floor. Absolutely amazing. Kubrick said that he was completely shocked when he discovered that alternating sound between the wheels going over the carpet and the hardwood floor when reviewing the dailies. George Anderson, one of our patrons, he said, would we have gotten as iconic a film if the Steadicam had not been invented? What do you think, Matt?
I mean, it's one of those questions. It's hard to say, because what would have been there instead? And I'm sure Kubrick would have come up with something, but it's so integral to that story. It's so integral to the character of Danny. It's one of the big kind of moments that always gets me is when he does round the corner and it's the twins standing there.
Oh, yeah, and he stops.
Oh, he just stops dead. What could he have done that would be the equal of that? I really, really struggle to think when I think about the other camera techniques that we used before. To answer George's question, no, it probably wouldn't have been. I'm sure we would have gotten something, and I'm sure it's something I would have still enjoyed, but it's so integral to the effect of the film. Yeah, I don't think it would have been as iconic, no.
Westy?
My answer to your question, George, is I don't think the Steadicam made this film. I think this film made the Steadicam.
Oh, nice.
Wonderful. I think we can put that on the poster, can't we?
Yeah.
Great writing, great camera work on The Shining, but special mention also should go to the score by Wendy Carlos and Rachel Elkind, the editing by Ray Lovejoy, and the ultra insane, amazing production design by Roy Walker.
Yeah, unbelievable.
The end.
Nearing the end of the film, Jack hijacks the radio and Halloran is on the next flight out to Colorado. With the whole family fractured, Wendy quickly realises that all work and no play has made Jack a dull boy. Matt?
Oh, jeez. Who needs jump scares when you've got a scene like this? I mean, everything about this scene, just everything that's been laid in early scenes, it's all about payoff now.
Yeah.
And that creeping scene from Jack's POV where it's like creeping up behind her. Oh. Hate that. I'm already on edge for that.
Oh.
And then just the way that it draws out her looking at those sheets of paper to find out what he's written.
Yeah.
Fewer dread.
Oh, it is. That's the best way for it, because you're like, oh, what the fuck has he written? What has he written? I'm thinking it's going to be something really awful, and I would never, ever, ever be able to guess. Like, that's what he's done.
Yeah.
But even so, and even for such an innocuous phrase, it just horrifies me when you realise how much typing he's done. Just that one phrase.
Yeah.
And you think, oh, shit, he's totally flipped. And how long has he been flipped for? How long did it take him to come up with those enormous reams?
I know.
And it's the fact when you read through them or when you're glimpsing at them and there's spelling mistakes in there and there's grammar mistakes.
That's great.
And he's put them in like different shapes. Like some of them he's got slanted. Everything about it. It's just like, oh, my word. New pants, please, after this scene.
Brown note.
Oh, yeah. The brown note has been well and truly played by this point.
Yeah.
God.
It's amazing. Westy?
Yeah, it's that deterioration, isn't it? Because you see deterioration of the character through each page. The first page is well written. It is.
Oh yeah.
It's consistent. It looks good. And then, like Matt said, you start getting spelling mistakes. It's in different shapes. He's losing his mind. He's going further and further down, and it's that slow push in. It's the music here. It's her reactions. This is where Duvall shines for me. From here, no pun intended. Our performance elevates. This is where she's like, it is the payoff, and it works. And I love the way he appears as if from the photographs. You know, from the background. He is part of the hotel now. He is. There's no turning back. It's all pushed forward. Everything from this scene onwards, the camera moves forward. It moves towards the end. The way Nicholson just baits her, and he's horrible, and he thinks he's got the upper hand,
dick, isn't he?
and he's, you know, the tongue's out. He's like, Wendy, I'm not going to hurt you. I didn't finish my sentence, which obviously harks back to what he's writing, that he couldn't finish what he was writing down. And she's got the baseball bat, which again people have said that's a symbol of America, and he's got the axe, which is a symbol of, you know, the native America and the tomahawk and all that kind of thing.
Lovely.
A behind the scenes story on this, which is absolutely amazing. Nicholson said, look, we're going to need a stuntman to do it convincingly, to fall down them stairs after being hit. I'll do the hit, but I can't do that fall down the stairs. So they screen tested every single stuntman in London with that jacket on. And they did a screen test with the jacket on to see how well they looked and how well they rolled. And it was the head of the union who ended up doing it. It was like the boss of all the stuntmen. He got the absolute best that he could find to do a roll down the stairs for 15 seconds. And that is just Kubrick. It took them like 2.5 months to screen test all of these guys, all of these people. I'm sure the first one was fucking magic. But he's like, does look right. Let's do it again.
I feel really sorry for Wendy in this scene. She says, I'm very confused. I just want to go back to the room. But if you think about it logically, she's having an absolute fucking nightmare.
Yeah, she is.
The son's being attacked. Her husband's gone mental. And she's snowbound in this hotel. She thinks there's a crazy woman running amok as well.
Yeah.
I mean, Christ.
And he's asking her really big questions, like, what do you want to do with Danny? So maybe we should take him to a doctor. Like, maybe you should take him to a doctor.
Yeah.
It is the visual and emotional representation of what I would imagine is a really destructive and violent relationship to be in.
Yeah, so
And
toxic, isn't it?
Yeah, it's horrible.
Outrageous. And this is the moment where Wendy backing up and he's doing the whole "I'm going to bash your brains in" bit.
Yeah.
That went into the Guinness Book of Records. It took 127 takes, the most for any scene with dialogue.
Jesus
Christ.
And a quote from Duvall, she said, "I had to cry for 12 hours a day, all day long, for the last 9 months straight, 5 or 6 days a week."
Oh, God almighty.
That's mental torture.
Yeah.
Yes, it is, yeah.
I think what's dizzying about when you stop and think about it, is kind of what you were touching on, Matt, is that someone had to write out all of these pages line for line, and they're not Xeroxes either, because they're all different. They're all different structures and shapes, and that somebody was Kubrick's assistant who spent months on end doing this. Surprised she didn't go mental.
Yeah.
Probably did.
Particularly when you consider how many takes Kubrick was keen on. So she had to type out enough so Shelley Duvall could go through them and mess them up and tear them up 80, 100 times, whatever. And to go one further, the foreign language versions of The Shining, so Spanish, Italian, German, these pages were written out in that language as well.
Yeah.
And none of them read All Work and No Play. They all had kind of similar things, but more relevant in that language. So the Spanish translation was, "Although one will rise early, it won't dawn sooner."
Yeah.
Okay.
Italian was, "He who wakes up early meets a golden day."
Yeah. And then the French one was, "What you have is worth much more than what you will have."
I don't know. I don't really know what that means.
Which neither do I.
No. I think we got the best version there, to be honest.
I think we did. After this, Wendy drags Jack into the storeroom, but he's let out by Grady so that he can deal with things in the harshest possible way. Danny writes red rum on the bathroom door, but just as Wendy reacts, Jack bursts into the room with an axe. So Westy,
Yeah.
here's Johnny, iconic scene.
Yeah, love it.
I mean, they all are.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm not going to say, I don't like this bit, but like, it's fantastic. But I love the choice that Wendy's got just before this scene. She could put him in the storeroom, which she does, but we're also introduced by Holleran to the freezer, where, you know, he talks about all the meats and everything else, like I said at the top. So she's got the option here of killing him or preserving him, which is a complete representation of their whole relationship. She always thinks if she just preserves his attitude, he's going to get better. He's going to come back. It's all about that preservation and that, and moving on, and that cycle of things. She could have ended it. She could have put him in the freezer and finished it, but she didn't.
Yeah.
And he comes back, but he comes back again preserved by the hotel. So he comes back even stronger. So she's preserved him in the wrong way, and it's backfired. And a lot of this was ad-libbed.
The "Here's Johnny" bit was
Here's
ad-libbed.
Johnny, yeah. I mean, Kubrick didn't understand it because that was from US television. He'd be living in England. He was like, "Well, but what are you talking about? Johnny Carson? What do you mean?"
Yeah, he's on the Johnny Carson.
Exactly. And the amazing thing about that scene was that it was like took 30 days to film and 60 doors.
I know, that's crazy. Imagine having to take doors off and then rehang it. Take doors off, rehang them. What the fuck?
Like on average, that's 2 doors a day. But they're going through like more than that. It's like 30 days, and then it's the dialogue delivery. Just before this as well, I love the sound design on Danny's voice when he's just saying red rum.
Oh, God.
And it just, the pitch goes up.
Terrifying.
The pitch just increases. And,
Red rum, red
rum. And then what do you get? You get the mirror. You get the reflection. You get to see exactly what's going on through a mirror image, and it zooms in and then crash zooms all the way through the film. I haven't even touched on this, but the crash zooms are just absolutely amazing. Once Danny sees the twins in the games room, and it's just boom. Once you see murder written on that door, that's the world you're in again. It's the Grady bathroom. You're inside of his mindset, and it isn't going to change. It's so clever. It just makes us want to go to sleep and not bother waking up. What's the point?
Rip Van Westy.
Brilliant.
Matt, what do you think?
So, like, even before I saw The Shining, like, when I was a kid, I used to, like, read all these books about science fiction and horror films, and so the image I was always obsessed with well before I saw the film was that one of Wendy holding the knife, like, cowering up in the corner of the bathroom. I was like, oh, what the hell is that? and it does, it absolutely pays it off. What, like, before it, though, when she was locking him in the storeroom, it's because it's been so tense. I think you just get a little bit of comedy here when he's putting on that voice to try and, like, pretend that he's all right. And he wants a doctor and he's calling her Wendy. That all, like, just because I've been so tense, that always gets, like, a really nervous laugh out of me. Even though, you know, he's clearly putting it on.
Yeah, he switches it immediately, doesn't he?
Oh, yeah. As soon as you realise it's not going to work. Yeah, I mean, it's just when you think like the film can't get any more intense, it just ramps it up one more time.
Yeah. How loud is Halloran's vehicle when he arrives at the hotel, that snowcat? It's loud as the loudest vehicle I've ever heard, and slow as fuck. It must have taken him hours to get there.
Yeah, definitely.
It's unbelievable, but a massive bummer on his part that he's schlepped all the way from Miami to Colorado in the snow through some horrendous weather conditions, and then he's out of there as soon as he reaches the Overlook. What a nightmare.
Brilliant, though. That scare comes from fucking nowhere. He's just walking through, you're tracking through with him, and then once Jack appears from behind that pillar and you get the bam, bam, the stabs of the music.
Yeah.
Last 20 minutes of this is just incredible.
It's incredible. The maze run is just fantastic. The use of that Steadicam is fantastic. I really love those point of view shots where it's Jack's point of view searching for the footsteps and Danny's point of view when he goes back and he's covering, like, it's the trail of breadcrumbs again, isn't it?
Yeah, there's just so much going on here that you just pick up on later viewings. Like, after Jack leaves Wendy in the bathroom, she gets alright. The next time you see her, bearing in mind she knows Danny got out of the window and has slid down.
Yeah.
She's running upstairs. Why would she be running upstairs? The least logical thing you could do, which is obviously where she sees the two guys in the room. Then when
ridiculous.
Then when she's downstairs and she sees Halloran's body and then the ghost with the drink, great party.
Yeah.
And at this point, I'm not even sure how many elevators there's supposed to be. It's like that elevator seems to just be in about 3 different places all the same time. And she's running towards it. And if you notice, in the middle, there's an exit door. I can't work out how an exit door could even be in between 2 elevators.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
And you can see it's a little bit open, so you can see there's something through there. And it's either the floodlights from outside or it looks like it could lead into the kitchen, which case it's not an exit door. She gets there, right? The next time you see her, she's just running down the middle of a corridor. So she clearly hasn't left through an exit that's taken it anywhere except deep in the Overlook. It's literally just rearranging itself around Wendy at this point, just to mess her up and trap her inside.
It's amazing.
It's so cleverly done. Blows my mind, the thinking that went into editing that whole sequence together. It's brilliant.
The snow was made of 900 tons of salt and expanded polystyrene. The maze was built at around maybe 2/3 of the actual size in an airfield nearby. Kubrick thought it would be easy to solve. He wasn't too happy with it, so he went in to see if he could get out of it, and he wound up getting lost.
And everyone said they got lost in there, but then Kubrick, he said he figured it out, and he was the only person who could get out. And there was crew members said it was pointless shouting Stanley because all you heard was he's laughing.
Fantastic.
You lost it. Much like we are in the film. It's amazing.
And in the novel as well, there isn't a maze, but animals made of hedges that come to life and attack. Is that right, boys?
That's right.
It is.
So this was impractical from an effects point of view, so Kubrick came up with this maze idea himself, which is surely better in every
it's
way.
far superior.
Yes, definitely,
This is the end of the film, save for that pull into the 4th of July 1921 photo. But there was an additional scene at the end when originally released, and that was when Ullman visits Wendy in the hospital to tell her that there was no Jack and no evidence of anything out of the ordinary at the Overlook. He then hands Danny a ball from the Overlook, which is the one that he's playing with, or the one that Jack's playing with as well. And it ends with the text, "The Overlook Hotel would survive this tragedy, as it had so many others. It's still open each year from May 20th to September 20th. It's closed for the winter."
Yeah. Kubrick removed this after it had been released in cinemas. Like it was, it was actually out there, and he hired an editor to go out and to go to each of the theatres and cut the last 2 minutes.
Yeah, so that's gone. So there's no physical remains of that. You can't get that on a work print or anything like that. It's just being snipped out.
It's gone. For it to end on the picture is the best way it could end.
Definitely.
So on that picture, what's your interpretation of the final shot?
The more I think on that scene in the gold room where he says he'd sell his soul for a beer, the more and more I come around the idea that that picture, it can't be seen by anyone, and what it is, that picture is just the collection of who the Overlook has gotten over the years. So that picture will get bigger and bigger and more full of people. Jack's the new one, he's the latest one, so he's front and centre until it finds someone else to replace him. That's lovely. That's how I read it now.
Westy, different take?
No, I think Because of what Kubrick said about it, it's pretty similar, but I do think it's a reincarnation thing. I think you've got that from Delbert Grady going into Charles Grady, then going into Jack. You know, they're always looking for people to do certain things in this hotel, and I think the hotel's looking for certain people to do certain things. And what we're focusing on is this one story of the caretaker over the winter who kills his family. You know, it's happened before, and it happened again. Charles Grady did it. Jack does it now.
Bill Blakemore, who's a writer for ABC, one of the first kind of writers who would start to build like really strong theories about the meaning of The Shining, said the answer to this puzzle, which is a master key to unlocking the whole movie, is that most Americans overlook the fact that the 4th of July was no ball, nor any kind of Independence Day for Native Americans. That the weak American villain of the film is the re-embodiment of the American men who massacred the Indian in the earlier years. Mm-hmm. So he puts it all down to this Native American genocide that we were talking about earlier. Also, to give another slant to it, to back up the Holocaust theory, as the camera dissolves into a closer zoom of the photo of Jack, Jack's hairline makes a small Hitler-like moustache on his upper lip in the closer-up image as the two are dissolving into each other.
Of course it does.
Jack is Hitler. I don't think so.
So, what an ending. Jack now a permanent fixture at the Overlook. He's always been the caretaker there.
Amazing.
Reception and awards.
The Shining opened to much derision in the US. Variety said, with everything to work with, Kubrick has teamed with jumpy Jack Nicholson to destroy all that was so terrifying about Stephen King's bestseller. Gene Siskel called it a crashing disappointment. And Pauline Kael said, again and again, the movie leads us to expect something, almost promises it, and then disappoints us. Across the board negativity. Because of the negative reaction, Kubrick removed around 24 minutes of footage for the international version, which was released a full 5 months later.
Mm-hmm.
The omitted scenes took away most of the action that happens away from the hotel. So, Danny with the doctor near the start. There's a longer interaction with Jack in the interview scene.
Yeah.
More footage of Halloran's efforts to get back to the Overlook, which includes a scene with Tony Burton's garage attendant.
Yeah.
And also a segment where Wendy's running around the hotel at the end. She stumbles into a room which is full of skeletons, straight out of a Vincent Price film.
Yeah.
It looks ridiculous, that bit.
Yeah, it does. It looks stupid. As mentioned at the top, Kubrick was nominated for a Worst Director Razzie. Unfathomable. Crazy.
You can't explain it.
I'm not saying anything about that.
And Duvall got nominated for Worst Actress. Scatman Crothers did win the Saturn Award for Best Supporting Actor.
Nice.
Despite being released on the same day as The Empire Strikes Back, it did make a profit. On a budget of $19 million, it returned $46.2 million overall.
Nice.
As early as 1987, Rolling Stone magazine noted that there was a critical re-evaluation of The Shining in process. And in 2013, Time Out magazine called it a masterpiece. Robert Ebert spun his initial negative review into a positive by inducting it into his great movie series.
Nah, too little, too late, Rob.
Bone of contention, Rog. And Empire magazine gave it 5 out of 5, saying it manages to traverse a complex world of insipid madness, spectral murder and supernatural visions, and also makes you jump. Empire also put it number 1 in their best horror movies of all time.
Yeah, okay.
Yep.
To say it's just a horror film, though, is doing the film a disservice.
I think so,
I guess so, yeah. But, you know, a lot's been said about the horror genre, and I think it's a lot more important than people believe it is.
Currently, it has an 85% score on Rotten Tomatoes, and 8.4 out of 10 on IMDb, so not doing too bad.
No.
So a surprising initial reaction, even considering the endless maze that Kubrick created. The film, now considered a classic and one of the best of the genre.
Certainly is.
Yep.
Sequels and influence.
Permanently unhappy at Kubrick's adaptation, Stephen King finally got the opportunity to put right the wrongs of The Shining by adapting his novel into a TV miniseries in 1997. He wrote the teleplay, acted as his exec producer as well, with Mick Garris on directing duties. Shining 1997 miniseries. Have you seen it?
Yes. Unfortunately.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a case of thing, and Stephen King really should have shut up about it, because it's one thing to complain about it, but then to go and announce that you're going to make the definitive version in your head. and then to turn in what he did.
Yeah.
It's just unfortunate. Put it that way.
That is unfortunate. Universally agreed that it's completely terrible compared to the film.
Awful. The acting is just atrocious. It shows that he's a great novelist, but that is not the same as a great screenwriter, because he has crammed everything in there. He's crammed in the fire hoses that come to life. He's crammed in the hedge animals that come to life. And you sat there and you're watching it thinking, you know what? Stanley was right all along. It's just terrible, and it's over 4 hours long as well.
4.5 hours.
Yeah.
Too long.
Shower of shit. I haven't seen it. I'm not going to watch it. I'm not interested. I've seen the best of clips on YouTube, and if that is the best of,
30 seconds long, is it?
What a shower of shit. It's like 2 minutes long. Do you know what it reminds us of? With King's Attitude. Do you know when one of the early episodes of The Simpsons where Homer gets to design his own car?
Yes.
And it's a piece of shit.
Yeah.
Everyone's like, what is this? And he's standing there, he's like, yes! That's the Shining miniseries.
I've always wanted to see it just because of this kind of reputation that it has, and the reputation that Stephen King's given it.
Bad reputation.
Bad reputation. And I started to watch it for this, saw the first part, and was thoroughly disappointed. Couldn't get beyond that. It's all like really melodramatic and like cheap, really cheap.
Yeah.
And it looks really heavy-handed, despite King's protests at Jack being a psycho from the get-go in the film. The Jack in this, played by Steven Weber, he's introduced as a drunk who's broken his son's arm and beat up one of his pupils at school immediately in the first 10-15 minutes. So what the fuck's he talking about?
Yeah.
I also don't like the kid in it who plays Danny. He's played by Cortland Mead. He's a pale imitation of Danny Lloyd. Terrible.
Yeah.
But Melvin Van Peebles is in there as Halloran, and he's dressed in like a full purple suit, like a pimp, which is nice.
Well, you love Van Peebles, let's be honest.
Yeah, of course. As part of the deal to get the rights back for The Shining, back from Kubrick, King had to agree that he would stop pissing and moaning about Kubrick's version.
Right.
He could still take shots at the casting of Nicholson, but that was the only kind of criticism he could give it. Regrettably, Kubrick died a couple of years after The Shining was made, so King just resumed his complaining about the film.
Nobody cares. Like,
yeah, exactly.
It's a masterpiece, man. Just leave it. You got your idea and he made it better. Just deal with it.
It did get positive reviews when it was released. TV Guide gave it 10 out of 10.
What?
However, the Washington Post advised viewers to avoid it like the plague, because it is the plague.
Crap.
Fair point.
It won 2 Primetime Emmys for sound and makeup. Nowadays, it's got a 42% score on Rotten Tomatoes. Not good enough.
That high?
Yeah.
That's really high.
Then last year, a sequel to The Shining was released. Dr. Sleep, based on King's novel of the same name from 2013. It stars Ewan McGregor as an adult Daddy Torrance. What are your thoughts on this one, fellas?
It's nice to see it again. It's nice to see...
Lovely to see you again.
It's nice to see you again. Like I say, it's my best friend. So, it is nice to see in a different kind of context. It's, to me, dependent upon the original film too much. Mm-hmm. It's not a standalone film. You're not going to be like Dr. Sleep is one of the best horror films ever made. It's too long. Ewan McGregor isn't great in it. And it doesn't sit right with me. It's all right. It's an homage. If you've got a spare 5 hours to sit through it, then fine.
I thought it was a film that lacked the courage of its convictions, because I'd read the book beforehand, so I knew what happened. It started off, and I was like, I don't care. This is about... It's actually kind of exploring or trying to explore Danny as an adult and dealing with the trauma that he went through. So, I appreciate it's not just, rehashing what he went through in The Shining. So that's quite interesting. I thought Rebecca Ferguson was pretty good as the villain of the piece. She was pretty good. I liked her. But it then deviates from the book, because obviously if you're talking about the book of The Shining, the Overlook burns to the ground, which obviously follows on in Dr. Sleep. But obviously that's not the case in the film. So I thought once the film got him back to the Overlook, I just thought, you could have made something really distinctive. You could have been really brave, but you haven't now. You're just making a film that's just piggybacking on the success of The Shining.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I didn't really like the mystical elements of it. I wasn't expecting that. I hadn't read the book, of course, so I wasn't expecting that. It is a completely different film to The Shining, so if you're going in expecting that, I think you'll be disappointed. I did quite like it. I'd like to see it again, but it was overlong. I actually did like the recreation of the Overlook.
It looked good.
I did. Probably the only thing I did like about it.
King said of the film, everything that I ever disliked about Kubrick's version of The Shining is redeemed here.
Oh,
Shut up, man. Honestly.
I know. So maintaining his dislike for the film still, in the afterword of the book Dr. Sleep, he writes, of course there was Stanley Kubrick's movie, which many seem to remember, for reasons I've never quite understood. If you've seen the movie but not read the novel, you should know that Dr. Sleep follows the ladder, which, in my opinion, the true history of the Torrance family.
Well, it's your opinion.
Still
man.
banging on about it?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, who gives a shit?
It was a critical hit, 77% on Rotten Tomatoes, but not a commercial one. On a budget of $55 million, it returned a meager $72 million. I think it deserved more than that. Finally, it was announced by HBO Max in April this year that there would be a TV series prequel to The Shining, focusing on the previous incumbents of the Overlook Hotel, named simply Overlook. I'm interested in that.
I'm interested in that.
I'm interested in any sequel to any film that I love, and
of course.
99% of the time let down.
Yeah.
So the history of The Shining is vast, with novels, TV shows, prequels and sequels, but without Kubrick at the helm, surely none will hold a candle to the 1980 classic.
No, should get Vivian Kubrick in there to do it. She knows what she's doing.
Or just release the full cut of the behind the scenes.
Well, yeah, I'd rather watch that.
All the Right Movies ranking.
The Shining has an iconic ending, and that's what we're going to give this podcast right now.
Okay, no
With
pressure.
our unique All the Right Movies ranking. So, Matt, could you summarise The Shining and give us your score out of 10, please?
Okay, so no other film has challenged me as much in the horror genre as this one to sit through it in one sitting. No other horror film stands up to as many repeat viewings as this one has. It
Right,
still shatters my nerves by the end of it each and every time, and no other horror film has as much to get into as this one. And take it outside of the horror genre, very few other films have as much to get into, whether it's there or not, as this one. It's just out there on its own. It's a very easy 10 for me.
Love it. Westy?
I don't want to stop talking about it. Like I don't.
You have to.
But I don't want to. I can't.
You have to, though.
But I'll right, okay. Well, we'll stop. Well,
We'll
all
stop
right.
the mics rolling. You'll
Stop
still
the
be
mics
there.
rolling. I'll still be talking about it just to myself, as if it's like Lloyd on the other side of the mic.
Little slow tonight.
Little slow down, isn't it? But like, honestly, I can adore this film. I think it's incredible. I think it's an incredible achievement. So many layers, and like I said at the top, there's so many questions without any answers. There's so many layers without you understanding what the layers are. It's just a cinematic joy. It's visual joy. Absolutely set the bar, and it continues to do so. It's 40 years old, and we're still talking about it as if it came out last week. Performances are incredible. This is how you direct a film. This is how you make a film. This is how it should look. This is cinema. This is a 10.
Oh, nice.
Wonderful. I wish I could be so dramatic.
So
I don't know if I... Well, I mean, I'll echo it, exactly the same thing, kind of mash your two comments together and say that's mine. It's
Right.
a wonderful film. It's on the surface a superior horror film.
Yeah.
But it's got about 20 other layers that I'm still trying to work me way through.
Yeah.
And I know I'll never get there. And that's what will keep me coming back again and again and again. I'll always want to solve this puzzle that Kubrick's left us. And I think that makes it all the more tantalising. Come back again and again. And from a technical film point of view, Kubrick, like red hot form.
Oh, yeah. Unbelievable.
Unbelievable. What he's done, I'm always amazed. Mentioned it, but the production design, the sound design, the acting and performances, the sets, just everything about it. I mean, it's a 10.
Of course it is.
Oh,
Do you know what it is?
in there.
It's a maze that you don't want to get out of. That's what this film is.
Oh,
It's
lovely.
a perfect analogy of it. Like, I'm happy to be lost in it. It's just so entertaining. It's such a comfortable place to be.
That's you in the picture at the end, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
Westy's always been there. What I really like there, Westy, is you gave your analogy there, which was lovely, but you said that's a perfect analogy of itself. Raising praise.
Oh man, just self-praise from beginning to end in this podcast. Yeah, he was as good as me back then. Yeah.
Listen to this. This is a perfect analogy. Okay.
God, I'm sorry.
Don't listen to the other two clowns.
We had a poll going on Twitter as well to help us score The Shining. Before we give you the score, some red hot comments first. Laura Watson at Laura WA65437530. She said, "It's an exceptional film. Jack Nicholson's chilling portrayal of a man's descent into madness is mesmerising. You question what's real as you witness the force of the hotel and the family's implosion in oppressive isolation."
Yep, she's right.
Yep.
Chris Watt at the Chris Watt said, "Few horror films have elevated the genre, yet Kubrick's mastery of tone and style cuts deep into the psyche, utilising iconic imagery, rug pull subversion, and sheer cinematic confidence to bring the story to vivid, terrifying life."
Yep, he's right.
That he does.
And finally, Concrete Soldiers at Leon Doggy Dog said, "Oh man, The Shining. What's not to love?
He's right.
A family stays in a big boring house for the winter. The overworked father with writer's block eventually gets frostbite. Fucking brilliant. 10 out of 10. Fantastic.
True.
And with hundreds and hundreds of votes combined on Twitter, The Shining came out with a score of
10, please. Come on, for fuck's sake.
9.5.
Oh, why? Why?
Out of 10.
Why?
9.5 out of 10.
Who give it a 0.5? Stephen King.
Loads of soccer counts. Voting it down.
So that means with our scores combined with the score from Twitter, The Shining has ended up with a score of 39.5 out of 40. I did have a feeling that this would reach the snowy peaks of the 40 out of 40, but it just missed out, meaning that The Godfather remains unchallenged at the top of the All the Right Movies leaderboard.
Okay.
Go to alltherightmovies.com/leaderboard to see the rank and order of all the films that we've covered on the podcast so far. As mentioned at the top, Patreon is available to all our listeners, so take a look at www.patreon.com/alltherightmovies for our unique and exclusive podcast experience. And a big what up to our Director's Chair tier patrons. They are Adam Cowie, Adam Yates, Damien Lennox, Anna Randall, Andrea Barker Said, Matt Lum, Graham Chader, Just Joe, Kenny Morrison, Gary West, Jamie Russell, and Robert Shearer. Great guys listening to great podcasts.
Thanks, guys. Selfless.
Thank you.
So we're off to the Gold Room to see if Lloyd can't slip us a bottle of bourbon, 3 little glasses and some ice, if he's not too busy, of course. For all show notes, credits and references that we used in production of the podcast, you can visit alltherightmovies.com/the-shining. Join us next time in All the Right Movies, provided Westy hasn't chopped us up into little pieces. John, Westy and I are on a murder case in 40s Hollywood as we discuss Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
Nice.
As always, you can subscribe, rate and review us on Apple Podcasts, and we'd be thrilled if you could. Of course, we're on Spotify, Google Podcasts and everywhere else. There are some lovely features on our website, www.alltherightmovies.com. They go up regularly, so keep checking back for more great stuff. Social media is our thing as well, so hook us up on Twitter. We are at @right_movies, and Instagram is at @all_the_right_movies. We'll see you in 2 weeks' time. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you, guys.
Danny, I'm coming!
Attaboy!